And welcome everybody to a new episode of Granny's Peach Tea. This is episode 11. We're rolling along here. We're in our double digits. With me, as always, is Jason Fischetti. What's up, Jason?
Hello. How's it going, guys?
And Tony Stabile. What's up?
Gentlemen, good evening. How are we doing?
Excellent. And we have a special guest with us. We got Bert here from Pop Culture Pros. You may have seen some of his work there. He writes some reviews.
Hello.
Like big comic fan. He's been with us before, and you've seen him on other shows like Just Too Sweet. And were you on Jada and Kyle before as well, or not? Or not? So am I mistaken?
Yeah, I did a couple. Did a couple of their episodes.
He's everywhere, man. He's everywhere. So welcome aboard, Bert. All right, so let's jump right into it. We got another huge show planned, as always. But yeah, we've got it. We got a brand new show that dropped, Invincible, that dropped on Amazon Prime. We got our CW stuff going, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we're gonna talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League again, because with a 4-hour movie, even though we had the PCP version of the Justice League tackle it last week, we still have more to talk about. All right, it was crazy, guys. There were seven. There were seven of us.
No.
We were the Justice League.
Unite
the
seven.
I want to be clear. Just because my name is Jason Fischetti does not make me Aquaman. I'm making that perfectly clear.
Oh, we can figure out a whole other time who the heck was who in the actual Justice League.
That's funny.
But yeah, so thanks for joining us, whether it's on Facebook, whether on YouTube, on Instagram, whether you're joining us in the audio version, whether you found us on Spotify or your Apple Podcast, thanks for joining us. So let's just jump right into it. Before we get into our shows, we had a pretty big trailer that dropped just the other day. I think it was on Friday. It was a trailer for James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. It's being talked about and described as a sequel-ish reboot to David Ayer's Suicide Squad that we were not huge fans of, and we shared our opinions on that a little while back.
That's generous.
You put it nicely. You know I'm always going to try to put it nicely.
Look, I think
generous, bro.
If we curve our opinions, my review brings it up just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So if we curve all of our opinions, because I had some liking for it, I didn't hate it like you guys did.
No, you did not detest it. Bert, what did you think quickly of David Ayer's Suicide Squad?
I feel like that movie on paper worked better than it did when it was an execution. Because David Ayer, in the crime world with his other movies, fits really well, but for some reason it just didn't work. Parts of it, obviously, I liked, especially a lot of the Batman characters seen in the live action for the first time, and obviously some of the performances. Obviously, Viola Davis, Will Smith, Margot Robbie. They pretty much carry the movie. But overall, definitely one of the lesser DC movies. But still, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I just think it's not as good as it could have been.
That is all. Bert's being extremely nice, I think, also, and we appreciate that, because we try not to really tear into too many things on here, but sometimes you can't just help. You just can't help.
I just want to know, do you have career aspirations in politics? Because that answer will get you elected, bro. That answer will get you elected. My God,
I appreciate it.
I want to see that movie. I don't know what movie you're talking about, but I want to watch that one.
All right, so I'll start it off. I fucking loved the trailer for the Suicide Squad. It was like everything I wanted it to be. Now, I said this on episode 9, throwing stuff out into the universe. But I feel like I said the same thing for David Ayer's Suicide Squad. So, because the trailer for that was tremendous. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. If we just watched the trailer and skipped the movie, we'd be like, holy shit, that was fucking great. But the Suicide Squad, it seems like it lands from the trailer, at least what I gathered, it seems like the humor is just right this time. It seems like the action is right. It seems like it's self-aware so far, like when it needs to be. It seems like it's zany and off the wall, and it's like everything that David Ayer's Suicide Squad wanted to be, but wasn't. I feel like James Gunn I'm just really confident he's going to nail it this time around. Tony, what did you think of the trailer?
I mean, there's really not a lot not to like. I mean, the music was perfect. It was. I've been humming that. I watched the trailer about 60 times already.
Steely Dan.
I've been humming that song for the last 4 days. I mean, it looks great. I mean, Cena looks great as a Peacemaker, and Idris Elba. I mean, oh my God. I mean, everyone says the same thing. Like, why did
Wow. I'm going to assume that's Karachi, but that's coming under Pop Culture Pros because he's giving you that plus 86 for the Mets hat. That's why.
It's probably Steve.
Yeah, he loved my MLB predictions from last night. So, but no, I thought that Idris Elba is great. A lot of people said the same thing about Will Smith not coming back, and he was the best part about Suicide Squad. Look, if you're gonna replace Will Smith with a character, Idris Elba would be your number one selection to replace him.
Absolutely.
And look, you got your Groot type of character in King Shark, and to hear that Sylvester Stallone is doing the voice, I mean, when that happened, bro, I was like, this is great, and it looks good. Like you said, the humor looks great. It looks like it's right there, and it's the stuff that Gunn probably wanted to do with Guardians of the Galaxy that he wouldn't get away with. He's going to be able to do in this film. And it looks really good. I mean, and John Cena talking about the bag of dicks thing. I mean, I'm still laughing about that shit, bro. I mean,
why would someone put penises out there? People are.
Who know why madmen do what they do? I was cracking up, bro.
That's such a good line.
It's the whole thing is so great, and then the Harley thing. It's great. I love it. I can't wait.
So Farachi, by the way, our boss of popculturepros.com, he loved the trailer also. Exactly what we were saying. He also loved the trailer for the original. So, yeah, it does look like it's light years beyond the original, and he's a little guarded. But we also know Farachi is also very guarded against the DCU in general because he expressed his opinions on our page a couple of times that he's gotten hyped up at one point, and now he's like very hesitant and stuff, but
with good reason.
Oh wow! And then there's nice little wrestling joke thrown in there.
Yeah,
I
get that.
Very nice. That's good.
Jason, what did you think of the trailer?
Oh, all in. 2 words, all motherfucking in on this. This is wonderful. And the reason I'm not afraid is because James Gunn has proven what he can do. And I don't think the studio is in a place where they were because David Ayer, I think he could have done something good, but he wasn't James Gunn. James Gunn's already proven himself in this very specific type of comic book genre. And I think they know they'd be idiots to sort of try to make him change things. Yeah. So I trust James Gunn. I'm excited to see Harley, Idris Elba, of course, King Shark. I'm excited that Peter Capaldi is in this. I'm a Doctor Who guy, and as Peter Capaldi is the Thinker, I was like, what? Like, it just everything. This trailer looks like everything I wanted Suicide Squad to be. And what I pretend it is when I watch it, as I told you, I have the mental gymnastics to pretend it is what I want it to be. And I think this this really could be something good, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and I think for me, like we were saying, it's just like it's hard to not get super excited about this film, man. It looks incredible. I got Alex dropping in there. Alex, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Alex actually shared his top 3 favorite episodes of Granny's Peach Tea the other day, completely unprovoked. That was tremendous. Yeah. That was awesome.
That was very good.
Please send it to us. We're kind of curious to get some feedback on that to see where we've maybe ranked and stuff like that. His favorite was last episode, number 10. So we got a lot to live up to for Alex. But he's also saying,
I got one thing to follow up what Jason said. The one thing that I think James Gunn also has in his favor at this point that David Ayers didn't is that he has the new Warner Brothers hierarchy that does not come in and completely change your cut of the film, in the middle of the night. So I think that also definitely works in James Gunn's favor.
And that's why I said, I don't think he's going to meet that interference. I think that's a key part because I don't blame David Ayer for the problems with Suicide Squad. You know, it wasn't a good movie, but I don't think it was his fault.
It was partially his fault. It was partially his fault.
No, but Alex is bringing up a point about Boomerang that he hopes he's going to be more important in this film. And for someone who I don't like Jai Courtney, like normally I liked him in Jack Reacher.
You hate Jai Courtney.
Dude, he has ruined 2 fucking franchises that I absolutely adore.
Yep.
All right. You can make the argument that Terminator was done before Genesis, or whatever the heck you want to call it.
Genesis.
No, I know it's called Genesis, but I'm not giving it. I'm not going to give it that because we know that's not how you spell Genesis. Cut the crap. It's just stop. No, but like he was recent that and him coming into that franchise got like that forced a reboot. Essentially, they were just like, all right, enough of the sequels. We got to reboot. And then what is this? Oh, Jesus. I'll have to get to Farachi in a second. So, and then, by the way, it was A Good Day to Die Hard. I love the Die Hard franchise. And he was in the 5th one. And I watched it once with meeting Bruce Willis at the premiere before I saw the movie. And I still hated it. I despised it. But like, it was so bad.
I'm not a Jai Courtney.
He played his son, right?
He played McClane's son in that,
kid?
And the movie was just. Now I'm not putting it all on Courtney, but think about it. I'm pinning him to ending of franchises.
Okay,
but having said all that, though, I liked him as the villain in the first Jack Reacher. Second Jack Reacher.
He was good in that. He was good in that role.
Yeah, the second Jack Reacher sucked, but he wasn't in that, so that's not his fault. And I loved him he was one of my highlights of Suicide Squad. I loved him as Boomerang. I admit he's totally pointless in the film. You can take him out, and no one would give a shit less. But he looked like he was having a lot of fun, and the character's so random, so whatever. Bert, what did you think of the trailer?
Well, pumped, like you guys said. With James Gunn, writing and directing this, it's obviously going to raise the quality of the film. And for those that don't know, because I actually have something here that's actually going to be a little bit of an impact on the film, James Gunn is heavily basing his version of Suicide Squad off of this classic Suicide Squad, which for many people is the classic version of the team by John Ostrander. Actually, like the actual vintage issue, Yellow Pages, very old.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Look, my man Bert's got himself props and everything. I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
That's his writerly research.
Dude, I like that.
It is. So with that, if you read that run, that run of Suicide Squad is very gritty, very down to earth, very 70s kind of style story. All of that is in this trailer, from the music choices, from the reality of the situation, even though it gets kind of crazy at the end with Starro, which I'm hyped for, because Starro is like, seeing that on film is going to be mind-boggling. Yeah. But I love it. I mean, obviously he picked the best parts of David Ayer's movie, of that Suicide Squad, the characters that worked, and put him in this one with a bunch of new characters. I already like Rick more from this trailer than his whole line of dialogue in storyline in the first movie.
Absolutely.
So that tells you, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn, I feel like is going to have a bigger role, obviously because of her movie and the popularity character. Bloodsport. I know a lot of people expected Idris Elba to play probably Bronze Tiger when it was first announced, but hey, Bloodsport's a cool character too. And just the deep cut level of characters. Yeah, just the deep level of characters that James Gunn has chosen for this movie is ridiculous. Like Polka Dot Man, like that's a super, super deep cut. Like it's crazy. And
by the way, hold on.
Bert, I forget that. I know that.
Bert, you probably know this. What's the actor's name that plays Polka Dot Man?
He was an Ant-Man.
I know that. That's what I was going to point out.
He's in a lot. It's David Dasmalchian, I think.
Yeah. So listen, sorry for butchering his name, but think about this, guys, for a second.
Think about it.
He's in the Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. He's in the first 2 Ant-Man movies. He was in The Dark Knight.
Yep.
He was also Abracadabra on The Flash as well. This dude is in every level of comic book, live action stuff you can possibly get into, which is bananas. And he's awesome. I love him in all of it. I'm sorry, Bert. Go ahead.
Yeah, very down to earth.
Yeah.
No, you're good. But yeah, no, it's like I said, I love the tone, a little bit lighter, even though it still feels kind of, intense and heavy. I'm excited for John Cena to see how he does. But yeah, I'm pumped. I can't wait to see it.
No, that's great. And the drop's in August, so I can't wait to do our review of it and really dive into that. I'm dying to see that. And there's Faraci dropping in with the proper name, which we'll probably butcher anyway. Yeah, David, that's Schmalchin?
The Schmalchin?
Yeah.
That's Schmalchin.
I have not heard it spoken, so I'm going to go with that. And then before we shift gears, so there's a Pop Culture Pros Fantasy Baseball League, and I'm playing against Faraci this week, so he's already starting to talk shit on our show right here. So yeah, you're going down. All right, Ding Dong Johnson's is taking you down, and you know it, Faraci. Exactly. That's the name of my team. We'll see if I don't know if he came up with a real name for his team yet, but we'll
Ding Dong Johnson.
Ding Dong Johnson's. It's quoting one of my most hated baseball players ever, but it's a phenomenal quote. Is Pedro Martinez, who referred to home runs as Ding Dong Johnson's, and I thought it was so absurd I had to go with it. But speaking of absurd, we got Batwoman season 2. This is the 9th episode of the season. I honestly thought it was a pretty strong episode. I got to tell you the truth. I'm not here to trash it this week. I thought it was pretty solid. We got the introduction of Black Mask. They furthered we found out that Black Mask is connected to the False Face Society, who has Kate Kane apparently, and they're going to do some crazy shit to her, which we found out about the end. And we know she's not going to look the same whenever the hell she does reappear. So you did further things along. But my what the fuck moment of the episode, okay, because there always is one. Batwoman never misses a beat with that. There's always at least one. So in the episode, Sophie's sister tries to rally against the GCPD, which, by the way, we hear mentioned and never seen. The GCPD is never seen. They're nowhere to be found because the Crows apparently have taken their place. So she's, trying to go ahead and speak up for police reform and everything like that. Current things they were mixing into the storyline. But she goes and she witnesses firsthand Commissioner Loeb getting gunned down and murdered. Right? She doesn't run to the police. She goes to the Crows, where her sister works. Okay, which, if you want to forgive that, fine. She knows her sister is, she trusts her sister and stuff like that. But you see the commissioner of the police department get gunned down, and you're like, nah, I got to go to the Crows. Really? Jason, help me out here. Come on. Am I nitpicking too much? Am I being too harsh here?
I mean, look... Are you being too harsh, considering we are in Gotham City and the GCPD in Gotham City is usually something much more than just a run-of-the-mill police department? No, I don't think you're nitpicking within the world that we're in. I think it should have been a bigger thing that Commissioner Loeb was assassinated. I think the GCPD should have been a presence in this show.
You think?
Before this. I think this being the only presence, and then she goes to the Crows, it doesn't make any sense. But to be fair, it makes more sense than a hell of a lot of garbage I've seen on this show.
That is true.
To be fair,
that is no. That is absolutely fair. That's why I wondered for a second: was I just being too much of a hard ass on the show, or not? And I don't, Tony. For those who are listening and you're not watching, Tony's shaking his head. He's like, nope, not at all. It's warranted. So, but right after that, though, right? So when she leaves the scene of the crime and she goes all right, I got to find my sister. I got to go to the Crows. She goes and sneaks up on her sister who has an SUV in the parking lot of the Crows base, right in their parking lot downstairs. So she sneaks in to the parking lot and gets into the car in this super secret security, top-notch place. And she sneaks in and she's able to get into that. To my knowledge, she doesn't have any kind of training. She's not a spy. She's not this. She's not that. She's just a regular person. So the regular person can break in, get into the car, and sneak up behind her from behind. Seems a little absurd. And then right after that, we see that the False Face Society also sneaks into this parking lot and is, action ensues. And Batwoman sneaks into this parking lot.
It's a very easily accessible parking lot.
Now
sounds extremely secure.
Very secure.
Not the best.
And there was a homeless guy. He was in the parking lot.
Everybody. I was in there. I strolled by.
I was going to say, I was in the parking lot too.
Sandwich.
Did I see you?
Yeah, what the hell? I mean, Bert, I know you didn't watch the episode, right? But I'm going to throw this out there because I know you're a CW fan, verse fan as well. If I'm going to nitpick, though, we both know that the CW verse, the home bases of Team Star Labs with Team Flash, the Arrow Cave, or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Oh yeah,
nothing's secure. Anyone can walk into these damn things.
Just go in, go out, whenever. Yeah,
hiding in plain sight is what they call it. They call it hiding in plain sight.
That's right.
The Batcave is just like right next to the Starbucks.
Oh, it happens on this show constantly.
I mean,
everyone's in, yeah. Everyone strolls in it. It's not a big deal. But having said that,
Batcave on this show.
Exactly. But having said that, though, besides the logic issues right there, I thought the episode was pretty solid. We got to see Black Mask, who I liked. I did like this version of Black Mask.
I did too.
Jason, share. Tell us about Black Mask.
So I have other things to say after this. I like this episode actually a lot, with the exception of the first 5 minutes and the end. Mm-hmm. And guess what happens in the first 5 minutes? We get to hear the name Kate Kane said 5 times. I counted.
It should be a drinking game. Jason, let's do it. Starting next episode.
I was watching it last night, and I was like, exactly. I was like, you know what? Let me do a drink. I was drinking a beer. I was like, I'm going to drink every time they said Kate Kane. And they said it twice right after each other. And I went, I'm just going to tick it down because I don't want to get that drunk. But outside of that, like, it was a good episode. Black Mask, I thought, was really fun.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And I've said this before, Black Mask is the perfect villain for a Batman adjacent thing. You know, because he's not one of like Batman's Sinister Six, where you're going to be like, whoa. Who are you, Batwoman, fighting the Joker?
He's not top tier, but he's like middle tier.
That's it, right? And he's still intriguing. He's a good character. I like this characterization. There was that scene where he's got Batwoman on the conveyor belt, and this was so comic book. I love this scene. She's tied up on a conveyor belt, and he's got like one of his henchmen, and he literally just runs this guy through with like electric saws. And Batwoman goes, "Oh, what did you do?" Or whatever, and he goes, "It's a labor dispute. What are you, OSHA?" Best line of the episode. How
awesome was that?
Best line of the episode. And the fact that Black Mask has an ethos. He has a logic. He's not the villain in his head, right? He's not like other people we've seen. Alice is very much the villain in her own head. Yeah. But Black Mask isn't. He says to Batwoman, no, I'm trying to save the city. And she's like, well, I am too, the best I can. He's like, yeah, but it's not good enough. And I like that dynamic. Like, I think they're doing a lot here that I think is really good. And I'm going to go on record as saying, if Kate Kane ever puts on the Batwoman suit again, I'm out of this show.
Wow.
Like, I'll just stop watching it.
Wow, bold statement.
And here's why. Because I've never seen Kate Kane except for 1 or 2 episodes in the first season. And I never got an opportunity to really see this Batwoman do much. And when I do, I really like it. And if they're going to bring back Kate Kane and not give this woman a chance, after I've heard the name Kate Kane literally once a minute in every goddamn 9 episodes I've watched of this, then I'm out. I can't, like, Kate, if they're bringing her back, it's got to be for a better purpose, not just to put her back in the Batman suit and make it the Kate Kane show again. Because I keep saying it, they got a lot of potential in this show that they're restraining themselves in the Kate Kane cuffs. I could be alliterative too.
Wow. Do you like what they're doing with Alice? Because it seems like she's getting reformed. In my opinion,
I liked the bit last night where she was like having the psychotic breakdown and then realizing she's having a psychotic breakdown and kind of almost embracing it. Yeah, I thought that was interesting, but I've not found Alice's arc very interesting at all that I've seen, because again, it's all Kate Kane related. And again, when you tie all of these living characters into a dead character who you tell me isn't coming back until just this episode, then I don't see the point of it. If they reform Alice, yeah, it could work, but they have to do something interesting with her.
Yeah, and I liked Alice, actually. I thought she was like my favorite part of the first season, to tell you the truth. Like, she was actually pretty good. I mean, you know, all things considered, I actually liked her. Like, but in this season, it just seems like they really have no idea what the hell to do with her, man.
They don't.
And I kind of feel like they're kind of reforming her, which is, for me, is going to take all of the interest out of her, because I like the fact that she just embraces the insanity and kind of just runs with it. And she looks like the actress looks like she's having a lot of fun with it.
She does.
And it'd be a shame to reform her. I'm really hoping they don't. I hope she kind of like snaps and goes off and like there's a whole thing, but I don't know. We'll see. I might be asking for too much.
It's actually, I bet you it's all going to depend on what they do with, wait for it, Kate Kane. Because, that's her like motivation.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know, maybe I got something. Maybe Alice will get reformed and Kate will be back and they'll run off and they'll be like the Wonder Twins.
And get there a different show that has nothing to do with this one. One that we don't cover.
They get a spin.
Form of a mop. Form of bucket. Oh, Jesus. Let's not even... All right, well, let's move on to The Flash. Season 7, Episode 5. We were talking about it before we went on air. I think Flash is having a really strong season so far. I'm really liking this, and Flash, we talked about this before. Flash has been very much a roller coaster. As much as popular as it is, a lot of fans like Bert, I know you're a huge Flash fan also. We both have discussed this. It is roller coaster. Some seasons are kind of rough. Like I know you said you didn't care for last
I've watched every season. The only season I don't like at all, or I tolerate, is like season 3. Season 3 was kind of a mess.
That's Savitar, season, right?
With Savitar and his evil version and all that mess.
Mm-hmm.
But season 4, picked up better. Season 5 was better. Season 6 was the second half of season 6 was very tough to finish because it was like, you're just watching something just to watch it, just to I'm watching it, just to kind of finish it. But it was just like, oh my God, Iris stuck in the mirror thing. Oh, I don't care. Oh my God, she's not gonna die. We know she's not gonna die. It's been vulnerable for the last 5 seasons. She's not gonna die. Guess what? Because Barry can just go back in time like he did in season 1 or season 2, whichever episode that was.
Because she also is still alive to write that article about Barry disappearing, which is always prevalent, right? So I mean, there's no way she can die. She's a fixed point in history, as the legends would say. See, I'm catching up.
Wow! Oh man, that is dropping some legends on us.
I like that.
Bert loves legends also. I
love that.
Whatever.
Show.
We'll get to we got a lot of time to talk about legends when that comes up. What I really liked about this episode of The Flash, though, is there was a lot of horror elements. Yeah. Really, some really dark stuff. I watched this later last night, and when they started talking about Freddy Krueger and the nightmare stuff and everything, no, he didn't actually show up. But no, Angie was, because Angie's petrified of Freddy Krueger. She was almost like, nope, I'm out. That's it. I'm not watching the episode. It's too late for this. Right after. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, but Warner Brothers does own Freddy Krueger. They own New Line.
Nope,
I was messing with her.
I know. He was on the episode of the Goldbergs, I think, recently.
Yes,
oh, that's right.
Yes, and I don't really watch the Goldbergs, but I did check that part out. I had to. Oh, I love Nightmare.
That was funny.
But yeah, that was a highlight for me. Another highlight was Cocky Barry when he caught Psych there, and he was just thought he was a no-nonsense villain.
Yeah.
So he kind of beats him fairly quickly, and he was just like, dude, I don't really have time for this. I got bigger things going on, man.
And I love that he calls him out on it. Well, that's
yes!
kind of rude. Are you allowed to be rude? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, but
that whole scene was phenomenal because we don't get to see a lot of Cocky Barry Allen on this show at all. Well, I'm not complaining, but it was really cool to see. So I thought that was hilarious. A lot of references, by the way, to other stuff. They had Crow's security show up in that scene where I was like, holy shit, they're acknowledging Batwoman, and they mention a GCPD because you don't see them.
They are all in the same world now.
Oh, we're going to get to that with Supergirl because there's I got some issues there. But and they also mentioned a lot of past seasons. So if you're just watching The Flash now, you may have missed it, but they in Barry's dream and his nightmare that Psych puts him into, he sees Reverse Flash, he sees Savitar.
They use DeVoe's chair.
Yes, I was about to say Cecile using DeVoe's chair, which I know that you're a huge fan of DeVoe.
I am.
Yeah, you are. And they also brought back from the first season, their Firestorm Matrix was referenced because at the end of the last episode, and at the end of episode 4, we see that Killer Frost and Caitlin Snow get separated into 2 separate beings. But to try to unite them, they bust out the Firestorm Matrix, and they're trying to use that to get them back together, just like they did with Firestorm.
Ronnie!
Yeah, I like that character. I thought he was actually pretty cool. But at the end of the episode, we also see that Killer Frost is actually wanted and being tracked down for being Killer Frost. Finally.
I was gonna ask that question because in the episode that I just finished, I just watched the episode, as I told you guys, where they murder Barry Allen's daughter in front of him and Iris West, which I think is some cold-blooded stuff for the writers to do to this man. He's been through enough. Let him have one.
Tough.
But anyway,
that was tough.
But the last I heard, her record was expunged. So did something happen in the last season that I missed, or like was her expungement, her record being expunged, and her being because she was pardoned for those crimes as per the 5th season?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't recall right now, but she's done other stuff since then. So
okay, because I am a season behind now, so there might have been some terrible stuff in that season. So.
But she's Killer Frost. She should be wanted for things and being arrested. I've been saying it for years. Jesus. But no, strong episode overall, though. Like, Jason, what did you think of Flash?
Oh, I mean, I loved it. Doing this show with you guys has made me go back and revisit The Flash and has made me realize how much I love this show. And I don't actually, I do know why I stopped it, because I stopped it at Savitar's season and I went, that's a bit much. But like I shouldn't have stopped. Ugh. Some really good stuff happens after that. And I'm along for this ride. I loved this villain. I loved how he makes everyone live their own fears. I love how they use I forget people's names, but Joe's wife, who has Cecile. I love how she was an integral part of fixing everything. Because I think it's sometimes the show they have so many characters in the pantheon that they kind of don't know what to do with them. And I think Cecile's one of those characters throughout the show that sometimes they can use her, and sometimes it's just like, okay, go do this now, Cecile, and be off camera. So when they find really meaty things for her to do, I enjoy it. So overall, as you said, it's been a really fun season. I think this is one of the strongest episodes of the season.
And Jason, you inadvertently teed me up for it, because what I was going to say about Cecile is I kind of feel like what the show has done with her. When she got powers, I didn't care for her because I feel like they were what I call the hero syndrome. Like the show Heroes that was on NBC years ago. Phenomenal first season. Second season is where things started to go a little haywire. But my big issue is that once everyone got powers, it was like, all right, that's not a big deal anymore. So it doesn't matter. And
once Hero and his friend are switching powers, no, True Blood did the same thing. Fantastic first season. And all of a sudden everyone was like a fairy or a werewolf or God knows what the hell else they were. You can't make everyone special on every single show, man. Like that's when it starts to get dull for me, at least personally. But the only thing with this season
with Flash is I'm worried about how they're going to handle Ralph, because I know a couple episodes ago he showed up, but like his face was messed up because
that was brutal.
They didn't show his face.
That was brutal.
Yeah. But that was kind of rough.
Mask.
But, yeah, so I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that. But because I like Ralph. I like this character.
I do too.
With his skill set, though, technically he could look like anybody and just be that person.
They should just recast the actor if that's what they're going to do. Then
no, but that's what I'm saying. Instead of writing him out completely, you can recast him, and the explanation is there in his own power set. So it really is not that big a deal. But let's jump on our last CW show for the week. Is Supergirl's back?
Can I start the Supergirl one?
Absolutely, you can. So
I want to tell this story, and just keep in mind I have not watched the multiverse one, the multiverse crossover. So yes. I'm in that season in Flash, and I'm waiting till I get to that Flash episode to go back and watch them. So I know nothing about the collapsing multiverses except for what you guys told me. That's this, right? But I stopped watching Supergirl the first season, and again I didn't dislike it. I just fell off these shows all at the same time. And what I remember about Supergirl was The Devil Wears Prada starring Supergirl and Callista Flockhart. And I was into it. I thought that was it was a fine season. I liked that season. But man, what I stepped into last night was bonkers. And I was all in on it. I'm telling you, you did not oversell John Cryer as Lex Luthor.
Thank you.
Thank you. This man, oh my God. And this is he's got a kryptonite shooting ring. He shows up at the Fortress of Solitude. He's blasted. This was What? This is Supergirl now? I should have been watching this the whole time. I got to see Martian Manhunter, and I love that actor who plays Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got such gravitas in that role. He really grounds all of like the cartooniness going on around him. Was that Brainiac?
Brainiac 5. Yeah,
a good Brainiac just laying there dying on the floor to start this episode. 5.
Yes, not 4, not 3. Not 2, not 1, but 5.
I thought, and was that like Otis, like from the old Superman?
Oh yes, and Tessmacher's in it also.
Oh my! Like I'm watching this, going, this is bonkers in all of the right ways. And if I knew this show got this crazy, I think I would have went back. So I'm now very excited to finish Flash and go back and catch up with Supergirl, so I can get to this bonkers part and really enjoy the craziness. So in essence, I loved this episode. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, so because Tony, I wasn't sure if you were going to get into, if you were going to try to check out Supergirl or not, because I know you're the Superman guy, so I wasn't sure if you were going to try to give this.
This is the problem. This is the problem that I have, is that I was ruined on Supergirl when the original Supergirl movie came out.
Oh, we'll get there one day, but stop.
But this is why I'm ruined on Supergirl, because I watched that saying, there's more people like Superman. Sign me up. That sounds great. And then I watched the movie, and I think I was like 9 years old when I watched it, and then I don't remember disappointment like that ever before that, nor I don't think after. So I mean, it was awful, and I have a really hard time. And I understand. Her name is what? Melissa Benoist.
Benoist.
Right. I hear nothing but great things about her, but I am so it's such a flawed thing for me now after that happened that it's hard for me to get into. But I know that you have been talking about for years how great John Cryer is. I love John Cryer, so maybe I have to give it a chance. Maybe I have to try it out.
Dude, him as Lex Luthor is absolutely fantastic.
So
it's all I've heard, and I've heard it not just from you. I've read it other places too. So I definitely, and I saw the coming attraction. I'm like, wow, this guy looks really good. Like you'd never think that the guy from 2.5 Men could pull off Lex Luthor, but god damn it, he looked pretty good. So I mean, but. It's the only reason why I was very hesitant to start watching it, because I was ruined from the first movie.
That's funny you mentioned 2.5 Men, because my father was a huge 2.5 Men fan, and he got me into it, and I caught it on like reruns, and he watched the CW shows with us, and so he watched whatever the hell we're watching. He was into all of this, so he would go ahead, and when I told him, I'm like, when they announced it, I'm like, listen, John Cryer is going to be Lex Luthor. He's like, Alan fucking Harper? Get the hell out of here with this shit.
When you said that, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Really? That's who's going to play Lex Luthor? That's who's playing Lex Luthor?
So good, though.
But, bro, after seeing him in action, oh, wow. It
works.
Yeah, it works.
Bert, was he not the one? I mean, there was I didn't like Crisis on Infinite Earths, like, as a whole. I thought it was definitely one of their lesser crossovers.
It had
moments. Well, yeah, but I think it also had its moments where it was like it shined, like the 2 Superman thing, Brandon Roth's Superman coming back, and one of them was John Cryer. Yeah. Lex Luthor's arc throughout Crisis on Infinite Earths was phenomenal.
He was one of the best parts. He was one of the best parts of it, honestly.
He was, like, for you guys who didn't see it, he gets to meet Smallville Superman, Tom Welling's Superman. He gets to meet him face to face.
That's awesome. Scene.
It's a great scene. It's the only scene with Tom Welling in it, but like it's great. Like he gets to meet that Lex Luthor. It's so awesome, man. Like he steals the show for me. So the thing with Supergirl, though, so my highlights were we got to see Supergirl, as you mentioned, fight a Leviathan-powered Lex Luthor in the Fortress of Solitude. Like that was bonkers.
That's crazy.
He sends Supergirl into the Phantom Zone.
That was awesome.
Which is also awesome. And then, well, we see Brainy and Lena Luthor are trying to make amends, with Team Supergirl throughout the episode, and they're making progress. By the way, what the hell is with Alex's costume? Like, she looks like David Bowie. With like the makeup and everything. That wasn't like I was like, when the hell did this happen? Like, I don't remember this at all. I love and I like Alex's character a lot. Her whole arc through the first 5 seasons. But I know I remember she became like a superhero and stuff. And it's kind of, well, whatever. If we're gonna talk about it, it's lame because she has a hood. I can say the same thing about Oliver Queen also in the first season or 2, but that's pretty badass. So whatever. But why? What's with the eye makeup? Couldn't stop thinking about David Bowie. It was like having Dance play in my head. Like, let's dance.
If there was a person in history that you were going to say that a superhero looked like, David Bowie would probably be at the bottom of that list for me.
Yeah, probably.
I didn't pick that. I didn't think about that when I watched it last night. But when you said it, because I had no idea, because I don't remember anyone's names half the time. So when you were describing the person, I was like, who's he talking about? And then when you said she looked like David Bowie, I went, oh no, I know exactly who you're talking about.
It's Cara's sister. Yeah.
Spot on.
What the hell, man? Like, come on, CW, do better than that, man. Well, it's the eye makeup that, like, it's totally unnecessary. Get her a mask, man. Do something, Jesus. And I know she becomes like sentient by the end of the episode. And like, I don't know why at the tower that Martian Manhunter has like a plaque for her made. I mean, whatever already. I know he says he gives her the name essentially for, someone who was on his planet and stuff, but still, like, it seemed a little goofy to me. But in this whole thing, like, Bert, you brought up earlier, yes, we know the CW is a shared universe and stuff like that, and they're like to me, they're one of the only few that have been able to nail a live action shared universe. MCU, obviously, Kevin Smith nailed the shared universe with his movies also, because that actually works. And then the CW is the other one who nails it. So we're talking about Lex Luthor fighting Supergirl in the Fortress of Solitude. Where the hell is Superman? They're in his house fighting. What the fuck, man?
You would have thought ADT to give him a call, tell him people in the house, but I mean,
Calex, anyone, somebody,
right on cue.
Jesus.
He does a timeshare with Supergirl, and it was her weekend, and he didn't want to intrude.
I mean, but he has a freaking show now. We know he's back on Earth. I'm just saying, Supergirl and Lois, they have some explaining to do about their timeline now. Like, I'm sorry, and also the whole plot and the whole thing in this episode, it was worldwide. It was going on. Where is the Superman? What the hell, man?
Well, then, like, where's the Flash? Where's any of these people? If they're all sharing the same world now, where's Black Lightning? I mean, this is a global event. Where's the Justice League?
Which we also know as fans of this stuff. Sometimes you got to write it off to an extent. But the dude, his arch nemesis, is fighting his cousin in his house. Come on, man. Stop.
I mean, to be fair, he's dealing with another Lex Luthor from a different timeline.
Yes, he is, but you got to believe that if they're fighting in a damn fortress, he would be like, "All right, listen, I gotta do something about this." But whatever.
I'll be honest with you, though. As much as I love John Cryer as Lex Luthor, I don't ever want to see him on Superman and Lois, because I think tonally he wouldn't fit for what that show's trying to do. I think they made
I'm the other way.
Huh?
I
think it could work.
You think it could? Because he seems so over the top, and that show is not over the top.
He's not always like that, though. He's not always like that. It's right now because he's like going bonkers.
It depends. If they do some type of crossover episode, I mean, hopefully it's on the Superman side, because I would love to see like Supergirl characters in that Superman and Lois type of cinematography and kind of setup that they do. So I would like to see that, but I definitely think Cryer can tone it down if he goes on Superman and Lois, because he can. His range it's very up and down, so he can tone it down when he needs to.
That's fair. I am only basing it off this one episode, and he was like on a 15 out of 10. I mean, he was so amped up. So I'll reserve judgment till I get through Supergirl.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. I couldn't get that out of my head just because they were in the damn Fortress of Solitude, man. Come on, Clark. Like, listen, put the teenagers to the side for a second and go help your damn cousin, because there's a freaking fight going on in your house.
Well, maybe there was a bake sale in Smallville. He couldn't get away. Those things are very important.
Right,
or he's coaching the game. You never know.
It's a big game. There was a big game that week.
Big game.
So let's jump on to a completely different tone of things. On Amazon Prime this week, Invincible dropped. They dropped the first 3 episodes because that seems to be the Amazon Prime way of doing things. So we're just going to give overall thoughts on the episodes. We're not going to dig super deep into all of them. I liked Invincible. I didn't love Invincible though. Like I was cool with it. The first episode, I was talking with Sam the other day, Tony and Jason, my friend Sam, and we were chatting about it. He described it perfectly. He said, he was like, the episode kind of like rocks you to sleep, like, oh, it's a regular superhero show and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then the end comes. And then Omni-Man wipes out what is it? The global...
fake Superman wipes out the fake
Global Guardian. Global Guardians, I think.
Right? It was like Global Guardians or Guardians of the Globe or some shit like that. Whatever it is. We know they were the fake Justice League. We get it. But Omni-Man destroys them. Like smashing heads, eyeballs popping out, wiping the floor with them. I mean, Jason, elaborate on this. I know you got a lot of things to say about this, so go for it.
Yeah, I mean, so here's my thing with this show. I hated the first episode. I hated from soup to nuts. Hated it. I thought the whole lead up with the Omni-Man and being parental and trying to mentor his son, and the kid annoyed me. The characterization of his kid annoyed me, and I didn't really. And here's the thing. Full disclosure, I don't like anime and I don't really like hyper-violent cartoons. So, take what I'm saying through that lens.
Uh-huh.
So I felt the drama did not work. I felt it was the fake Justice League was way too close. Like it wasn't even trying to be the fake Justice League.
Batman, the Flash.
Right. And then watching Omni-Man just literally pushed the Flash's head together where his eyes exploding and there's guts and viscera, and I hated it. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. I hated it. Now I'm going to say that I did some research on the original source material. The original source material came out in 2005, right? Which is when this came out. I think if I found this comic in 2005, I really would have dug it. And I think the big difference for me is that in the wake of Zack Snyder's, contribution to the DCEU, as well as the Superman and Lois and some of the stuff that we've talked about there, this didn't seem like it was cutting edge. This seemed like it was gratuitous. Like, I've seen the Justice League go dark. Did I really need to see Superman literally pop the Flash's eyeball out and beat Aquaman's brains on the floor? I personally didn't. Having said that, I think the second episode works a lot more than the first. Because the second episode introduces these teen characters. I think the character of Invincible becomes a lot more likable as he's sort of working with these other teens. I thought there was some fun stuff in the second one. I didn't have fun in the first one. I didn't find anything fun about it. But like when like Detective Demon shows up,
oh yeah,
I mean I couldn't help but laugh at that. Where the line, "Well, you got a problem with the demon? I thought you were an atheist." Like that was funny. So I didn't get to the third one because I ran out of time. That's on me. So I think this overall, I hated the first episode, but there was enough in the second episode to keep me going. But I also, again, I like cartoon violence in my cartoons, and that's just the way I am. So I think anyone who loves anime and loves like over the top cartoon gore, ignore everything I said and go watch the show because I think you'll like it.
Okay. Tony, what did you I know you watched the first episode. What did you think?
I did. I watched the first one, and I'm with Jason. I had a hard time with it. I thought I love the voice actors, obviously.
Yes.
Jason
They're
Simmons'
fantastic.
voice is great. Mark Hamill is, he's fantastic in pretty much anything that he does nowadays. Sandra Oh, I believe, is she plays the mother. So,
yes,
the voice acting is very good. I had a hard time with the first episode. Same with Jason. I did not like the kid at all. I wanted to smash him at some point, and I think I had a different expectation for the show. I guess I was hoping it was going to be a little more, maybe not as over the top as Archer, was, but I was hoping it was going to be that type of show, like a show that didn't take itself that seriously. And watching this first episode, I was like, no, I was totally off on this. So I'm going to give it another chance. I'm going to check the second episode out, but I was, you know, I wasn't really wowed by what I got in episode 1.
Okay. Bert, what did you think? Did you watch all 3 episodes or no?
I watched all 3.
Okay, so what did you think?
On the same. Well, kind of like what they said. The violence didn't necessarily jar me because I'm used to seeing, you know, crazy stuff like that with animation. But it's just the placement of it, like, you know, because I've heard of the book, but I've never actually read it. So I went into this kind of fresh. I didn't really know like what was going to happen or whatever. But, you know, I like the story. Obviously, I think, you know, for you guys not liking Invincible, I think that was done on purpose to kind of make it seem like, oh, he's impatient. He wants his powers. He doesn't care about anything else. But like I said, the second episode, the third episode, I liked a lot more than the first one. But I do some of the parts in the first one, like when he's learned, like when they're actually showing, when Omni-Man's actually showing like him how to fly. Like, you know, when you throw your punches, you got to go like this, you know, with the air and all that stuff. Like, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so the voice acting is really good. I'm really intrigued to see where the story's going. But yeah, I mean, even though that was like shocking, like didn't really jar me, but I was pretty sick to see Omni-Man do that because it was out of nowhere. Because I was just like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, so I mean, like,
why is he killing everyone? Why is he killing everyone?
And then wham.
Yeah. It's like, whoop, squish. Like, oh man. But no, like probably I think out of the 3 episodes, the third episode is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I think the series has gotten better. I mean, I didn't mind the violence at the end at that episode at the end of the first episode with Omni-Man doing that, because I kind of just had, as soon as he showed up in their base and everything, and they were getting called there, I kind of had a bad feeling something crazy was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be Omni-Man, but like once that thing started, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is where shit's really going to hit the fan. But I agree. I think episodes 2 and 3 were better. They fleshed things out. The whole thing with like team and all of that stuff, and we see that there's different teams and different heroes and stuff like that, and we get to see more of the world like on, and they don't focus on the whole Omni-Man wiping the floor with fake Justice League or whatever. So I am curious to see where this goes. I mean, I know there's been a lot of comparisons to The Boys. I guess on a level of violence, I can see that. I just think the things with The Boys, they took things to really crazy places. And I don't want to spoil it because I know Jason and Tony have not seen it, and I am dying to get text from them reactions when they see The Boys. Is it's gonna be like, what the hell is going on here? So, and Bert's smiling because he's watched, he's up to on The Boys too, and I think we can do a group text and figure out as you guys are watching each episode, it's gonna be like, wow. I think Tony's jaw is gonna be on the floor. That's my and yeah, it's really bonkers. But we'll get to covering The Boys when season 3 drops, and I think that's around September or so that'll be dropping.
Okay, so I have time to catch up on that.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of episodes.
I mean, they're short. There's only like 10 episodes.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
8 or 9. Yeah, 8 or 9 to each season.
And Eric, The Boys. Eric, we're 100% with you. The Boys is phenomenal. So we can't wait to get to that. Yeah, there you go. There's Eric from A to Z Show and from Just Too Sweet. Before we move on, though, Tim has a phenomenal comment here. He just jumped in. I guess he didn't hear Invincible. He thought I was talking about the Mark Wahlberg movie. Yes, fuck the Eagles. Fuck them in their stupid asses.
I don't know. I kind of like Hotel California. Oh, wait, you're talking about something different.
Oh, no. I'm all, besides the football team, I am all with Lebowski. And fucking Eagles, man. Like, why the Eagles, man? I use that during the football season, like, constantly. So let's jump into some of the meat and potatoes of our show, which is the weekly MCU. And we got a new episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier this week. An episode that I think we talked about, and we kind of agreed that as much as we liked the first episode, we really, really enjoyed the second episode much more. I think we got more of the flavor that we talked about that I think we were going to get, like the MCU's Lethal Weapon. I think that's front and center in this episode for the most of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. No question.
So, I definitely think we got a lot of that. The banter between Bucky and Sam was
It's
absolutely outstanding. But let's just jump through it quick. So the episode opens with John Walker, Captain America, everyone's favorite Captain America now, and I'm sure as we opened the show with Star Spangled Man, it probably got some people a little bit upset because we know any mention right now John Walker is seems to really get into the people's skin right now.
Well, I put something on our group saying that I kind of like the actor, and a friend of mine was like, "No, he's obnoxious. I can't stand him." I'm like, wow, that's all right. Hot take on me, man.
No, Jason, this is what we're gonna get into, and I was kind of teeing you up for this though. So in the first scene, we see John Walker goes back to his high school. He's we find out he was a football player there and stuff like that, and I think they're kind of like they were trying to show like the human side to him because they think. They probably banked on the reaction it was going to get. All week, everyone was just like gritting their teeth at the idea of John Walker, like in the Captain America costume. But he's getting ready to go on Good Morning America, ironically. So we see that. And then we also
Good Morning America.
America. That whole thing, I thought it was great. And I can just see the reaction. Like Tony's reaction right now is kind of what I'm getting. It's just like, fuck John Walker. Like the hell with him, man. Like I could see the anger building up there. But that's where we meet John Hoskins though, also, who turns out later on in the episode we find out that that's Battlestar, also from the comics. But the scene shows like he's kind of a regular guy. He has a wife. He's nervous before his big introduction and big on going on Good Morning America. He is. We find out also that he has a military, I was going to say Star Spangled military record right there. So he's kind of like they're kind of like legitimizing why he was picked.
A very good,
as Captain
very
America.
good military record.
Oh, it was bananas, and they have they show the footage of him throwing the shield and everything like that, which started bringing me back to like wanting to punch him in the face. So I'm like, leave the damn shield alone. It's not yours. But we see a whole thing about that, and then the kick in the nuts though. Was when he comes out on the football field in his Captain America costume is they're playing a modern version of Star Spangled Man. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You son of a bitches.
This is real. This is real.
This is real.
This is really happening.
Tony, I see your expression right now, so out with it. Like what were you going through while watching this?
All right. First of all, yeah, that first scene where they try to introduce you to the character of John Walker, and again gives you the whole idea of he went to high school there, he played football, he's he is in the service, he's very good at what he does. They tried to get that. I thought it was kind of comical that his wingman is as he put it when they were riding back in the truck together, Cap's wingman or whatnot or whatever is like it's almost like they tried to make it exactly like what Steve Rogers and Sam had. Now they're trying to make the same thing with Hoskins and Walker. But I'll be honest with you, like just seeing that is supposed to try to maybe soften you up to him to know that he's just a guy that, was chosen for this job, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying to myself as I'm watching, it's like, fuck you, man. Get the fuck out of there. Like, fuck you. You ain't fucking Captain America, but he is because they trotted him out on that football field with that, with the shield and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, like, imagine being an actor and getting the opportunity to play Captain America. And the second that everybody sees you wearing that uniform, everyone says the same thing. Who the fuck is this guy? And why is he holding Steve Rogers' shield? Right? Like, this guy went through some online hate last week.
Yeah.
It's good to see that they actually tighten the helmet now, that it doesn't look like his head is like, lost in it. So that's a definite
plus. Better.
Yeah, that's a definite plus for him. He doesn't look like the guy from Up anymore. So that's a positive.
So good.
I was like, get this fucking guy out of here. I was literally the thought that I had as I was watching it. And, you go back to that scene in the last few seconds of last week's show where Sam is sitting there watching what's going on TV. and the look of horror on his face, like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that leads into that first, like, real buddy cop moment when, you know, when Bucky shows up and they have that walk through the, you know, through the hangar like that. And Sam is trying to say, like, you know, like, what do you mean? Like, this, I did what I thought I had to do. And Bucky's argument is compelling, bro. It really is. Like, his argument's compelling.
So
like, who are you to give that shit away? Like, he gave it to you. That was his. That would belong to him, and he gave it to you for you to use it. He trusted you. He goes, and we get into that later on in the episode, but why that bothers him so much. But it's a really good scene, and it starts like this show. I you know, last week was, you know, it had the action, it had a little bit of this, it gave you like a little preview into what's going on. But it was some really deep, heavy moments in this episode. I really, really dug it. And it had that, you know, international kind of flair to it. I'm really digging where this show is going from here on out, but I don't want to jump too far ahead. But from that scene and just the scene immediately after that, I think that was really, really well done.
Yeah, and I was gonna actually talk about like what Jason was talking with one of our group members from Granny's Peach Tea online about John Walker and Jason's feelings on the, you know, hot take of John Walker. But when we see him though in the episode, just to touch on that a little bit more on that opening scene with the Good Morning America appearance and everything, it is very much reminiscent of a modern day introduction. If you remember back to Captain America: The First Avenger, how Steve Rogers was doing it.
I was thinking
back at that time, the whole time, you know, the whole band, the song, the dancers, and everything.
The modern day CSO tour, basically.
Exactly.
That's what would happen.
That's exactly what it was.
Right.
But Jason, share your thoughts on John Walker, because it seems like it's a bit of a hot take.
I like John Walker, and here's the thing: I'm not saying I like John Walker as Captain America. That's ridiculous. He's not Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America. That's just the way it is. But to hate this character just because he's been put in the Captain America suit, I mean, here's the thing: if Captain America existed in real life and this was happening in real life, you don't think the United States government would do the same exact thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Would we really hate the poor soldier who tested very well into it? And I don't even think he's like, I think he has throughout the episode an arrogance. I agree with that. But I don't think it's like this villainous, horrible arrogance. He's a soldier who's been really amazing at what he's done for so long. And now he's being put into this whole other stratosphere, which he holds his own in. I mean, he doesn't get his ass kicked in that fight. I mean, any more than anyone else that does in the fight, which we'll get to. You know, I think I like the earnestness they give him in the beginning and the humanizing moment with his wife. And I think the whole hatred around this character is the fact that we all love Chris Evans as Captain America and we're offended that he's holding the shield and that he's in the suit. But like, I just think of this guy as USA agent. That's who he is. That's who he's going to become.
Yeah.
And I think with that in mind, I really enjoy the character and I look forward to seeing, like, we know that he does get led down some dark paths in the comic anyway. I don't know what's in store here, but you can see the seeds of that in a good person. I do think I don't think this character is supposed to be the villain or the antagonist. I think if he butts up against Bucky and Falcon, it's either because the government is sending him to do so, in which case that's his job, right? Soldiers can't question orders. Or if he does get the super serum and go to dark places, then he changes. But I think where the character stands, I don't think it's a bad character or a bad guy. I think we all just hate him because he's not Captain America.
So, yeah, and I think it's genius on the behalf of Marvel Studios, because I think they know what they're doing. They know when they put this out, this is going to be the reaction of the fans. And as usual, they're like the puppet master playing with our emotions. They know how beloved Steve Rogers is and Chris Evans is as Steve Rogers. And they knew this was going to piss everyone off. And it's fine. And they're going with it. And I think it's genius what they're doing with this.
It absolutely is. And, you know, the thing about it is that you are pissing people off, because the payoff of seeing, you know, either Sam or Bucky with that shield at the end, most likely Sam, but seeing whoever it is carry that shield and be the actual Captain America at the end of this thing is going to be that much more rewarding. And that's exactly what they're doing. You're absolutely right. But I mean, look, it's as much as Chris Evans is beloved as Captain America, and he is. I mean, I can't imagine anybody being able to play that exactly. And I can't imagine anybody being able to play that character the way he played it. Okay, I just can't. Mm-hmm. But I think that if the first time you saw that shield and that uniform, and it was on Anthony Mackie or on Sebastian Stan, I think that the reaction would have been a hell of a lot different. The fact that it was an outsider. And that's the thing where it was just somebody. And we know, obviously, you know, we're looking at it as fans, not as a panel, but as fans, we're looking at it as who's this fucking random guy that would they pick him out at a parking lot or whatever, or maybe he was in that parking lot from the episode of Batwoman. I mean, he could have been there too, right? But I mean,
everyone was there.
Like, apparently John Walker too, apparently. So I mean, it could have been. That's the way we're looking at it. Like, who's this guy? Where'd they get him from? But if Sam had been with it, or if Bucky had been with it, it would have been a completely different, because then it's like well, if there's someone's going to have that shield, it's going to be one of those two guys, not this guy, and that's what it is. And then the payoff when one of them does end up wearing that uniform, obviously 90% in my opinion, it's going to be Anthony Mackie. But
it's got to be Sam.
It's got to be
99.9 for me.
Yeah, I mean it's. I only do it because, you know,
0.999.
I only say it because two of them are in the show, but I mean, it's all but assured that it's going to be him. But when he does have that uniform on and he does have that shield in his hand, that payoff is going to be tremendous, and that's because everybody is so pissed about what's going on right now.
It's smart. It is. Just, it's really smart.
It's brilliant. It's typical. It's typical Marvel.
So before we move on to the next scene, let's answer Tim's question quickly, but I think we did touch on this in the last episode when we talked about the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Tim is saying, by the way, what is everyone's consensus on Steve Rogers? Is he actually dead, or is he still in hiding? And Falcon, Bucky, and Rhodey are all playing along. My thoughts on this: I think he's alive. I think that they're just like, hey, listen. Old man Cap is off into the sunset. He's with Peggy. You know, we're not going to bug him with this. He's more than earned it at this point.
Peggy's dead.
You think he's dead?
No, Peggy's dead.
Oh, I'm sorry, not with Peggy. My bad. He's obviously not with Peggy. I retract that. My bad. But I think they're letting Steve kind of like live his own life, man. Maybe he's just chilling out.
Yeah.
He's doing whatever he's doing. Maybe he's at the bingo hall. Who the hell knows?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because when Sam did it, if Sam had a question about it, no matter whether Steve is living his life or not, that's something that Sam would have addressed with him. Okay. And I think that's the way. The conversation that they had, walking through that, and even even when they were in the therapy session, okay, they were talking about him. He says, if he was wrong about you, then he must have been wrong about me. Okay, there's no way exactly. There's no way that Sam and that Bucky and Steve would have zero relationship at any point at this point. So, in my opinion, it's got to be that he's gone. That's my. I mean, Tim obviously feels the same way, but I think he's gone.
Bert, what do you think?
He went. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Bert,
I think he's gone too, because I think at this point, you know, for his story. I feel like if you brought him back even though, you know, if he's going to come back in something, he's going to come back in this, obviously. But if he were to come back, I feel like it would be a waste. But I feel like his story is already kind of set. Like, it was a perfect ending. He lived his life. He helped save the universe. Like, that's all he needed to do. I feel like it's good, and I feel like if he also came back, it would take away from Sam and Bucky's story, because that's what a lot of these new shows are about. It's more about these side characters getting elevated into main characters, and really, life, getting character depth on them. So,
and life without him, and that's the whole point. The
exactly.
fact that they relied on him so much when he was alive. Now he's gone. It's like they have to figure this out for themselves, where they had never had to do this before.
Yep.
So,
Jason, where do you stand on Steve Rogers right now?
I think that I think they think he's dead. And I think that it doesn't really matter in our perspective whether he is or not. He came, he gave him the shield, he, went back to wherever he came from. He didn't leave a forwarding address. I think for all intents and purposes, whether he's dead or not, they have no way of reaching him.
Mhm.
And I think because I think everything that Bert and Tony said are true. These characters need to go flourish. They can't be using Steve Rogers as their crutch, and because that's the whole point of giving them this show.
Right.
Personally, I like to think that he went to the multiverse and joined the Fantastic Four as the Human Torch, but that's just my own like Mojo fan theory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, wow, I got one for you guys.
Oh no,
that can happen.
But I think in all seriousness, I think they think he's dead, and it doesn't matter because no one can contact him because he decided he's out, and when he decided he's out, he gave the shield and removed himself, and then that's that.
Okay. All right, so let's shift on to the next scene. So I think, and what they cut to though is they cut to Bucky looking disgusted, sitting on his floor, watching the Good Morning America. Oof. And you could see he's pissed, and I think that was us. That was the fans. We were Bucky at that moment. So
I'm Bucky this whole episode, bro. I'm Bucky. Me and Bucky are like this in this episode. My God.
So Bucky gets pissed, like Tony mentioned before. He goes, he seeks out Sam. He's like, I got to find this dude right away. Because it cuts to Sam looking at posters that they have up, and apparently in the Air Force Base that he's at, of Cap is back, and we find out he has no relation really. Where he's never met John Walker, blah, blah, blah. And then, Sam is getting ready to go off to fight the Flag Smashers, right? He's giving Bucky the rundown of, hey, this is what's going on with the Flag Smashers. They seem to be a little bit too strong, as he puts it, believing that they're super soldiers and stuff. But we get some awesomeness, right? Because Bucky tells him, like, Steve trusted you. Steve, who the hell are you to give up the shield and blah, blah, blah. Very heartfelt. But then in that same scene, Sam turns it around and we get some MCU gold, like comedy, where we get the whole thing from the trailer, The Big Three, where the tone flips immediately, and Sam brings up, well, they got to be one of the big three, and Bucky's like, who's the big three? He's like, androids, aliens, and wizards, and then there's the back and forth of, well, there's no such thing as wizards. He's like, well, a wizard, the sorcerer is a wizard without a hat. So we're obviously talking about Doctor Strange.
Well, he did because he said, what about Doctor Strange?
Yeah, exactly. And he tells him that, and then Bucky's response, by the way, is saying, you're going to go fight Gandalf? Like, that's what you're going to do? And he's like, how do you know about Gandalf? He's like, well, I read The Hobbit back in 1937.
I read it when it came out.
Exactly.
Which was perfect. Which was so perfect.
Oh man, that was like so that whole scene was absolutely hilarious. But Tony, like you mentioned, though, there's a lot of this episode. There's some really heavy, heartfelt stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but we also get the Lethal Weapon buddy cop thing, and it seems to teeter back and forth for like a perfect balance of what you want out of this show.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, without question, it does it almost flawlessly, because you get, like you said, that moment where Bucky is, you could see that brooding kind of, and this is the way it's the way he is right now. Look, he's free at this point. He's not doing the work that he's always done in his entire life through the 106 years he's been alive. Mm-hmm. And, so he's kind of lost and he's pissed off. And his best friend is gone, and this is the opposite of what Steve had to deal with, because Steve had to deal with the fact that he thought that Bucky was dead all those years, right? And all of a sudden he just shows up, and Bucky's got to deal with the fact that Steve is gone and is never coming back. So it's a similar but yet completely different feeling that the two of them are going through. And look, and Bucky's got he's got regret. I'm sure he's got things he's trying to deal with. The fact that a lot of regret. Yeah, he's got a lot of regret of what's going on, and it shows. And the fact is that the two of them get on each other's nerves. They do it so well. They play each other off, and I love I've loved their relationship going all the way back from Winter Soldier and Civil War. Like they get on each other's nerves. That scene with Spider-Man in the airport is just gold. The two of them laying there, and he's like, "You couldn't have done it before." And he goes, "I hate you." It's such a great scene, and it's natural. And the two of them, and the thing is that the two of them are super close in real life. Like the two of them,
are they really?
Oh, they are. If they do, they constantly do interviews together, and they can't keep a straight face.
And they both hate Tom Holland.
And they they pick on him mercilessly.
All the time. So good.
They would actually. Kevin Smith was doing a panel, and it had the three of them. It was Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, and Tom Holland. And Mackie is just like he's being brutal to Tom Holland. And he was talking about this or that, and Holland says he goes, I really enjoyed you in the Falcon. Oh, right, that's night. There isn't one of those. And Mackie was like.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Did not see that coming. So
Tom Holland.
Oh yeah, but it was great. And but Mackie and Sebastian Stan they're very, very close, and they do a lot of press together, and they're a lot of fun. Like if you go on YouTube, you can actually look them up together. They are. This is the perfect show for them because this is the way they are in real life, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I actually didn't. I know they did some press together and stuff like that, and I know the whole Tom Holland thing.
My God,
but that thing with the Falcon movie thing, that's pretty great. That's pretty great.
Their chemistry really draws from that. Their chemistry is phenomenal in this.
Bro, they are, and the chemistry is real because they really, they're boys. Like and if I'm telling you, go on YouTube and find you could. I believe one of the videos is the Sebastian Stan Anthony Mackie Love Fest, and they just it'll show you clips of stuff that they've done through all these movies that they've had to do press for, dating back to Civil War together, and it's priceless. It's hilarious.
So we get to there, and then Bucky and Sam, they get on the plane together. They're like, all right, let's go see what this Flag Smashers thing is about. And they're on the plane, and then they get the whole staring contest going again. Like you can see it, and Bucky's staring thing comes front and center. It's gone back to a bunch of times in this episode. We'll get to the main scene where it really takes place, but on the plane there's some of that. Sam jumps out. He's got a plan. Blah blah blah. They're going down. And they're tracking the Flag Smashers, and then another gold line from Anthony Mackie there, where he's just like, man, look at you, you're all stealth, and like, look at that, you spent a little time in Wakanda, and you're like White Panther now. And I was
and he says, no, it's the White Wolf, and he goes,
actually
what?
a White Wolf.
Yeah, well, she's like, well, wait a second, hold on,
he's like,
actually have a name?
Like, what?
Yeah, which they did mention in Black Panther in the post-credit scene.
The White Wolf.
So that's a nice call back there. But then Sam, we get into the big chase scene of the episode where Sam and Bucky, they're fighting the Flag Smashers on top of the two semis after they're trying to track them down to see what Bucky believes they're stealing vaccines and stuff, and they run into Carly Morgenthau, who they believe is a hostage at the moment, but then she smiles and kicks Bucky right out the back of the damn truck, and then fight ensues. They're fighting on top of that. They're getting their asses handed to them, essentially. Red Wing gets destroyed by Carly Morgenthau, and Bucky's line about, man, I've always wanted to do that. Is fantastic.
Heartbreaking.
And he even threatens it before. Get that out of my face, or I'm going to destroy it. Or he says something like that.
Yeah. So, but then John Walker, Captain America, shows up, which, by the way, that's how he introduces himself. Him and as Hoskins show up, and then
John Walker, Captain America.
Exactly. Which is kind of cool that he's not just saying Captain America. He's actually letting you know I am John Walker, Captain America. It's a little different.
He's being respectful to the dead. Just pointing that out.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this, aren't I?
So then the fight's going on. Like, John Walker throws the shield and stuff like that, and it's great quick scene where Bucky catches it again and then flips it over. You can tell he looks annoyed, like, oh, God, whatever. But great callback to Captain America Winter Soldier.
He felt happy for like a half a second, and it was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, whatever. He kind of like flings it away. But, yeah, that whole fight ensues. They kind of get their asses kicked. I actually like John Walker's move when he throws the shield, when Hoskins is falling off the truck and catches him. That was pretty cool. But then Walker gets back up there, and he was like, that it was some kind of a mistake, but he gets his ass kicked and goes flying off and lands into a car, which the car seems pretty damaged, by the way. But we'll get to that in a minute or in a little while of why that seemed a little bit interesting to me that the car was so damaged for him falling on it. So then they get into, Bucky and Sam are seen walking and talking, and they're yapping about, their banter's going on. And then they run into Walker and Hoskins again, and they have their whole conversation, which I think, by the way, was genius when Bucky asks John Walker, hey, did you ever jump on a grenade? And he's like, yeah, actually, I got this move I do with my helmet, and I kind of just like, whatever. It's a thing.
I think he's like, I've done it 4 times.
Exactly.
4 times.
Yeah, if you ever jumped on a grenade,
right? Helmet.
He jumped on a grenade, but he does it with like a helmet instead of like Steve literally was about to sacrifice himself.
Jumped on a grenade.
That was actually really cool. Yeah, exactly.
And I thought that was a cool moment too that made me like this character, because he's not someone who was just put there to be a face and be paraded around. He's someone who actually can talk, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And I think the fact that he holds his own. Like, he gets his ass kicked, but they all get their asses kicked. Yeah, right?
But they were all getting their asses kicked in that scene by the
exactly. But he holds his own, and he doesn't have superpowers. So that's why I'm saying I think there is something to this character. He's not Captain America, but I don't think it's fair to just shit all over this character.
No, I agree. But I think Bucky's reaction, by the way, when he finds out about Battlestar, and he just ends it. He's like, "That's it. Stop the truck."
I was gonna say, that was my favorite line in that scene. It's like and Sam is like, I need a lot more than just a guy jumping out of a plane. It's like, it's on Battlestar. He's like, Bucky's like, Battlestar? Like, stop the car! I think I'm done.
So that's it. I'm done. Get out.
That's how I'm done. That's it. Battlestar.
Check this out though. But if you're not familiar with the comics, Hoskins is actually, he takes up the mantle of Bucky.
He used to be Bucky too.
He was Bucky in the comics when John Walker was Captain America, because he does pick up the mantle of Captain America in the comics as well. So during that time, that was his Bucky. So I thought that was a really cool nod to throw into there as well. But they also mentioned, by the way, that Red Wing is government property, which kind of made me start thinking about some other stuff here. Mm-hmm. So what is the deal with the Sokovia Accords right now? Like, where the hell do we stand? I just want them to address it at some point in this series.
I'm willing
I think if they're going to address it, they're going to address it in the show.
I believe so.
Probably not yet.
Well, they talked about in the show. They talked when they were saying about, when they were talking about the Flag Smashers and everything. They were saying about the office of what the hell did they call it?
I know what you're talking about. I forgot.
You know what I'm saying? I forgot the name of it, but whatever the office of whatever the fuck it's called is trying to put everything back together now that all the people who disappeared for 5 years are now all shown back up. And so that I have a feeling that they're trying to work all of that out, but it's obvious that Sam is working.
He's working with the Air Force,
right? So Sam is working, right? And the fact that he was just able to bring Bucky along, he's just like, come on, bro, come on with us,
let's go, let's go kick some ass.
That was the only part that I had a problem with, because it seemed like okay, well, he's been pardoned and he's not allowed to hurt anybody anymore, but yet now he's on an Air Force mission overseas. So I was a little like, and then of course,
he gets in trouble for that later.
Yeah. Well, no, he got in trouble for missing his psych appointment, not for doing, not for going overseas. He got him.
He missed it because he went.
Well, I think the tone that I've gotten from this series though is kind of like something for the Avengers in general. If you were connected with it, being that you kind of helped bring half of the universe back, they're willing to cut you some slack on some things. Like, it's not as tight as we saw it with Civil War. So I'm not saying that, I think they kind of cut everyone some slack with that, which is kind of realistic. We'd be like, all right, I get it. You're not going to get into that. I just want a quick line of saying, hey, the Accords are done. Once everyone came back, we decided to nix that, or during the 5-year, or during the blip, they decided, hey, we got bigger fish to fry. We decided to do away with that, and that's it. Just address it very briefly. It doesn't need to be a huge plot point for me.
I mean, it's also at Tony's funeral. Remember, General
Ross.
Ross wasn't General Ross. What is he now? Is he Secretary Ross?
Secretary Ross. Yes, he was General Ross.
It was General Ross. Now he's Secretary Ross. He was at the funeral, and they were all there. So, I mean, obviously, at some point or another, he's given up the crusade of trying to apprehend all of them. So,
I just want to see it mentioned nice and neat, just like mention. It's not a big deal. It's not even a criticism. Honestly.
No, I'm sure they're going to get to that point.
Yeah. So the flag smashes, and then after that, we see that they have a safe house in Munich, and then Carly Morgenthau gets a text from someone saying that, basically threatening to kill her, that she stole something of theirs, and later on we find out exactly more about that. Yeah, the power broker, which I was going to get to when we get to that, because there's a lot of information with the power broker, especially connected to Walker and Battlestar as well. But on the flight back, Bucky mentions that he has some intel, because they don't really have a lot of leads, but it is somebody that Sam should meet. And this is where a lot of the meat and potatoes of this episode comes into play. So they go and they head to Baltimore, Maryland, and they go to a gentleman's house, and a kid answers the door. Right? And I'm sorry, they're walking. There's another great scene, by the way, quickly. They're walking over there and in Maryland, and a kid stops Sam in the street. Sam and Bucky are walking. He's like, hey, it's Black Falcon. He's like, huh? He's like, yeah, like Black Falcon. That's what my father says. He's like, why? Because I'm black and I'm Falcon? Does that make you like black kid? And then just like they laugh about it and stuff, and it's just like, oh, well, yeah, I guess so.
That was a good
point. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. But then they get to the guy's house, and the person who answers the door is a really, really interesting seed for the Young Avengers that's being thrown into this, by the way. So
I feel like I know we can get into it later, but I feel like that's what they're building up to in Phase 4.
Yeah, no, we can definitely jump into it
for sure.
There's a lot of that. But they met another member of the potential Young Avengers, Eli Bradley, who goes on to be Patriot in the Young Avengers team. But Eli Bradley is the one who answers the door, and it's of the house of Isaiah Bradley, who we find out. And he's got an extremely interesting backstory, both in the comics and in the MCU.
This was so good.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
This was amazing.
So we find out Isaiah Bradley, who was revealed to have been experimented on as the U.S. government was trying to replicate the super soldier serum while Steve Rogers was on ice. He was sent to take down Bucky when he was the Winter Soldier during the Korean War, because they did alter it from the comics. In the comics, Isaiah Bradley is dropped into World War II because Cap doesn't end World War II by crashing the plane and everything like that. It's a little bit different. So, but then we also find out that Isaiah, and whether he took up the Captain America mantle or not, that wasn't fully dived into this episode. Maybe we'll find out. But in the comics, he does don the Captain America mantle. They had a fight, and he ripped off part of Bucky's metal arm. And he's like, yeah, I just wanted to see, I let you in because I wanted to see if it grew back, and apparently it's here. So, essentially get the hell out of my house because I thought you were here to kill me. And he takes something, I forget what it was he takes, a book or something. He throws it into the wall. So we see he's clearly got his supers.
It was like a metal case or something.
Box, like a metal box,
and it sticks in the wall, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're like, all right, this guy is obviously powered. So we get that, but it's
he was pretty built too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
even though he's an older looking guy, he's still pretty big. But we also find out he was locked away for 30 years in prison after fighting Bucky and doing all of that.
Well, just remember the fact that with the Korean War was supposed to be, what do you say, 51? That's 70 some odd years ago as well, because they were in 2024?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so 51 is 51 that's 73 years ago. So he's got to be at least 100 years old.
Yeah. And again, for a 100-year-old guy, you're like, all right, you're in pretty good shape. But you can see the way Bucky looks, and and everyone else. Like it's not the exact super soldier serum. It's probably like a version of it. And
Bucky's Bucky was frozen for years upon times.
Yeah,
right. And same with Cap. Like he was frozen for a good portion of time. So
this is the first boyish looks.
This is like the first super soldier serum guy that we've seen who was let to age naturally. So I think that's interesting.
Cap too.
At the end of that game. That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, so we find out the U.S. government and Hydra, because we know Hydra was in S.H.I.E.L.D., they were running tests on Isaiah while he was in prison and stuff like that, and running all this other stuff. And there was some chatter online saying, because it does open up the doors, there's a connection with like a Luke Cage type of thing right there too, because that's, if you remember, if you did watch Luke Cage or you've read Luke Cage, you do know that's what they were trying to do with him, and that's how Luke got his powers as well. So if you want to say that's opening up the door for Luke to return and stuff like that in the MCU, we'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Exactly. Fingers crossed it actually happens. But in the comics, though, there is a huge precedence for this, as I had mentioned. In the run called Truth, Red, White, and Black, it is revealed that the U.S. government is experimenting on hundreds of black soldiers, trying to replicate the super soldier serum with various results. Isaiah was the only one who survived and donned the Captain America mantle, and in the comics, it's World War II. But he was also locked up for and cast aside for doing so. But after this big reveal, we see that Sam and Bucky are talking in the street, and Sam is obviously taken aback by this. He's like, what the hell? Like, did Steve not know about this? Why didn't you tell anyone about this? Obviously, this call came completely out of left field. Bucky reveals he never told Steve about this because he felt Isaiah's been through enough, and he didn't really need to do a lot of this shit at the time. And then Baltimore PD shows up, and in fashion where he sees two people arguing in the street, and they go towards Bucky, the assassin, who with a metal arm, and say, "Hey, is this guy bothering you?" And they're like, "Really, dude? No." Sam's doesn't have any.
Actually, the one episode, the one part of this episode I felt was just completely unnecessary. There was no reason for it at that point. The two of them, if they wanted to roll up and say, they roll up and they recognize Bucky and they say, okay, you got to come in with us. If that was the vehicle to get them to the point where they had to violate his parole or whatever it was, that's fine. But the scene leading up to that, right, I just thought was completely unnecessary. There was no reason whatsoever to put it in there. They weren't doing anything. They were just in the street having a conversation. It was completely unnecessary. Like where things are in this world, it was not needed to be brought into into this episode. Okay, it was, in my opinion, there was no reason for it.
And it's fair. I mean, it is a subject where a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it in there. But what I did like about it though was once he realizes that he's Falcon, like the 180 he does, of like, it's the oh my god, it's the Falcon. I'm sorry, and then they're like, oh. No, but you have to come with us because you have this thing. So I did like it in the sense that it was a set, because I get what you're saying, Tony, but I think as a setup of you think this is going to play out one way and then it does a 180 and it plays out a completely different way. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they definitely used it as the vehicle to how they got why they took him into custody. But I just felt like it was unnecessary to go down that road. Okay. It was, wasn't, if they weren't fighting in the street, they weren't putting hands on each other. Right. They were having a conversation in the middle of the street and they were there for 30 seconds. These cops pull up all of a sudden and now all of a sudden, let's pick on the black guy. Like there was no reason for it. It was
for what they were doing, like the reaction, like had they maybe gotten to a little fisticuffs and that happened, it would have been an earned moment, but you don't feel that the moment was earned.
Exactly, and it portrays what? It portrays that, again, you're trying to portray that, that a cop is immediately going to pull up on somebody and pick on the black guy in a situation. Like that was not necessary for what was going on. It wasn't, like you said, an earned moment. If there had been something else and you wanted to go down that road, that's fine. Two guys standing in the middle of the street having a conversation, albeit maybe they were talking a little bit loud, but I don't see why that had to be in there. So that to me was the one thing in this episode that was completely unnecessary.
All right. So, I mean, but we do get to the point where Bucky is the one who turns out they kind of like, they find out who he is and they find out, hey, listen, there's actually a warrant out for you because you did miss your appointment while you were on your adventures with Sam and tracking down the Flag Smashers. So they do take Bucky in. And then, we get to that where he essentially is being released then. We see that they're walking out with Bucky, and we find out that John Walker is the one who pulled some strings to get him out, saying, listen, this guy's acknowledging he's too valuable. He can't be tied up in all this stuff. So get your last therapy session out of the way, and let's get going. Because it's almost like it seems like they're being released. Not that Sam wasn't arrested at that point, but it just seems like John Walker, it's kind of like they're almost in his custody. It seemed like they were kind of assuming, they were insinuating that was the case. So, or at least Bucky is definitely.
He pulled a couple favors.
Exactly. Like he's the one who authorized it. He is the captain now. You know, he is Captain America. So,
and I like how we knew the psychiatrist too.
I thought that was interesting
awesome.
that they ran some missions together and stuff like that. That was pretty cool.
She had said in the first episode that she was in the army as well. So she, that's how they probably knew each other.
And jumping ahead, like just one scene, we'll double back because you brought it up. Again, I think the fact that John Walker gets him released and then doesn't go, well, now I own you. Now you're going to help me. Like they tell John Walker to go piss off and walk away, and they don't get, Bucky doesn't get arrested again. He kind of just goes, okay, you know what? You're not going to help me. So again, he has not pulled off a big dick move yet. Like, he helped.
I was going to say that last line he says to him is like, listen, stay the hell out of our way.
All right, but stay out of our way is not, all right, I'm putting you back in there because you're not going to help me.
Oh, no, I agree.
No, because you're not going to help me, then I have a mission. I'm the military. You're not. Stay out of my way. It's not a nice thing to say, but it's certainly not a villainizing thing.
No, not villainizing. I think he asserted himself as the captain.
Yeah.
Right. But he knows just what Sam said. They're outside of the law. They can do things that he can't do or things that they can't do. So they realize that even with working on a team or working independently, they're going to be an asset one way or the other. Because why? They were tracking them to get to the point. So they're basically letting them do the work, and then they're just, kind of shadowing along. So I think that he realizes more than anything that this guy does need to be out because he needs him to be looking and doing these things that he can't be doing or isn't capable of doing at this point. But him saying stay out of my way, meaning like when it comes time for me to do what I got to do, don't be in my way. So and he says it in a way that Steve Rogers would never say it.
No.
Right.
But let's get to the therapy session though. So
gold.
Therapy session again though, it's very much kind of like the best scene in the show.
Agreed.
It's kind of like the scene in the hangar though, where there was very heartfelt moments, and then it was some massive laughs played for the same time. So I thought that was actually very interesting. They go through some couples therapy exercises, and especially the soul gazing. And I think it turns like heartfelt, like they're getting close to each other. It's like, well, this is awfully close. This is what you wanted. And their legs are like pretty much like locked.
Apparently, that was improvised.
Was it really?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect example.
The part where they go in like really close with their knees, like that part was improvised, which is funny.
That's great.
That's phenomenal. Because that was such a great part. Is it close enough? Is it close enough? Like,
it
was pretty close. Pretty close.
Hey. Pretty close. It is. And then Bucky's staring comes into play, and they're having a staring contest, and she even breaks them up. She's like, "Are you guys having a staring contest? Like, what the hell is going? Like, please grow up."
But Sam's look when he loses, when she goes like this and he flinches, he's like, "Oh man," because he lost. That was why he did that, not because she stopped him. Because he knows he lost. That was why.
So, but then there's a heartfelt moment though, because she asks Bucky, why does Sam piss you off? And Bucky says, like, why did you give up the shield? Why did you have to do that? Steve trusted you. He goes back to kind of like what he was telling him in the hangar. Why does he, say he had to trust you? But, Steve couldn't be wrong about you. Yeah. Steve couldn't be wrong about you because you want to know something? If Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. And then we kind of really get to the heart of really Bucky's problems and concerns about Sam giving up the shield. I personally think they're equally important to Bucky, but that's where, we really see it because Bucky's on a path right now where he's trying to make amends. He's dealing with all this freedom, and he's questioning himself constantly. Like, who the hell am I? Like, am I really this assassin? Am I really this piece of shit that was going ahead killing people for all these years? I ruined so much stuff. And he's like, but if Steve had confidence in me, and he started Civil War, essentially, Captain America Civil War, he started the whole Sokovia Accords battle and everything. He went to the end of the line with me. Then Steve had to be right about me. He had to be right about you, too. And then Sam's reply, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Then Sam's reply is really heartfelt too, where he's like, I try to do what I thought was right. Maybe it's something that you or Steve will never understand, but I did what I thought was right. And that's something that's, you're going to have to just essentially just deal with.
I think this scene encapsulates, from what you just said, I think this scene encapsulates their story arcs that we're going to follow throughout. Because Bucky's story arc is that of redemption. I need to redeem myself of all the evil I've done, right? And in that moment, well, if Captain America, the only person who's ever believed in me, who started all this garbage over me, who went to war for me, an assassin, someone who has spent his entire life being an agent of evil, even though it's against his will, if he was wrong about you, then he could be wrong about me, and then I can't be redeemed. And I think, Sam responds because Sam's arc is earning the shield, right? Sam gives the shield up because he doesn't feel he deserves it. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that this show is Sam's arc in earning that shield back, in becoming the rightful successor. And I think this scene really sets that up so perfectly with like their back and forth, the comedy, and then that wham of emotion. Like that, as Bert said, this was the best scene of the episode, and I think that's the reason why it sets them both on their path.
I feel like this show is going to be. I feel like Winter Soldier and Civil War, and then even into Infinity War was about Steve proving to Bucky who he really was. And I feel like in this show, it's going to be Bucky proving to Sam who he really is. And I really feel like that's going to be Sam is going to be that Bucky's going to be the one that gets Sam to that point, to make him realize that Steve gave him that shield for a reason, and he is the rightful owner of it. And I think that that's where this show is ultimately going to end up going. And it's off to a picture perfect start to go in that direction.
We're gonna get Captain America and Bucky.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Get together eventually.
And unfortunately, I think we're gonna. I'm sorry, Bert. I think we're gonna finally. When we do see him with that shield, it's probably gonna be like the last 14 minutes of the last episode is when we're gonna see it. So, but I mean, it's gonna be a great payoff once we actually get there.
Go ahead, Bert.
But I think too, with what you guys are saying, because I think part of Bucky's anger towards Sam's decision was because he believes in Sam, even though he may not show it a lot of the time. He really believes in Sam because he knows that Steve, believed in him so much. And I think for Bucky, this is going to be, because Bucky is always one of my favorite characters, in the comics and also in the movies. And obviously he's not the only one that gets fault in the bigger movies that doesn't really get a lot of explanation and kind of exposure. But with shows like this, you really, think about it, because he's only had, 2 Avengers movies after, being the focal point of Civil War, just kind of being in Wakanda, dying, coming back, for a couple minutes, and then kind of losing his best friend. Now he's kind of trying to find his identity too. Maybe it's not him being Captain America, maybe it's not him being partners with Sam. Maybe it's something else. But I like the fact that they're kind of digging into that hopefully not only Sam, because I think the show is for Sam to become the best version that he can be of himself, because obviously I think he has a lot of doubts with everything going on, especially with the reveal of Isaiah. I feel like that's going to probably motivate him more to want to eventually take the mantle even more with the history behind the shield and everything like that. But with Bucky, like I said, I feel like with him, if he can find his role in his life to, live out the rest of his years to be happy, hopefully he can get that.
Yeah, no, it's well said.
I'll be very interested to see if they reveal during this show that Cap and Bucky had a conversation before he left. Because if you watch the end of Endgame, it really appears as if that Bucky knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and that
for sure,
it really does. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting at some point if Bucky and Sam don't have a conversation. Like, I talked to Steve. He told me that this was going to happen before he left. And he told me that you were going to be the one. That you needed to be the one with the shield. I'm going to be very interested to see if they go down that road, because it makes perfect sense, because I think after seeing that scene that he definitely knew.
Yeah, no, and I've always felt that way since watching Endgame, that you could tell Bucky's reaction, that he knew what was going to happen and he was just accepting of it. If you remember, he's also the one who tells Sam to go over to Steve and to talk to him. So he was definitely in on it.
And he's not surprised at all that's the case. Like he was. I think he was amazed when he saw it. Like, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
But He says to him, "When are you gonna? I'll miss you."
Yep.
He was only going to be gone for 3 seconds, so why would he miss him?
Exactly.
He knew he wasn't coming back, so I don't think that was by. I don't think that was by accident. I think that he knew going in, and I think that that's going to be revealed at some point in the show what that conversation was about.
No, that's a good point. So then we covered the scene. Honestly, we don't have to spend too much into it before we keep moving on. Then they're outside of the police station. Walker's sharing intel about the Flag Smashers, what he knows, which isn't much, and suggests that they team up. Kind of like, hey, listen, we're better together than he's extending the olive branch to Sam and Bucky to say, listen, we should team up. And then Sam makes a good point, saying, you guys got to go through protocols and stuff like that, and we're more like free agents. So again, sort of making me think about the Sokovia Accords again and the status of them right now. Because if you're free agents, then I guess there is no Sokovia Accords anymore. Again, something I just would like to just briefly be addressed at some point, but we all agree it will there. Next scene is the Flag Smashers loading cargo onto a plane, and see like they're stealing what they were talking about earlier from that text. And then we find out, one of the Flag Smashers sacrifices himself so the rest of the Flag Smashers can get away, and he gets shot down, which, by the way, Rick mentioned on our page is his cousin, who's an actor who's there.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Rick's cousin.
That's cool.
Rick's cousin is in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah,
my
pretty
God,
mind-blowing.
That's awesome.
We have 6 degrees of Winter Soldier through Rick and his cousin
6
here.
degrees of Marvel.
That's
right.
My
God.
So
love it.
Technically, I am 6 degrees from being in the MCU, guys. This is amazing.
Yep, same here. Same here. And by the way,
awesome.
I didn't really think of it that way, but okay, good.
No.
Mental gymnastics, my friend.
Another random fact, by the way, just before we move on, to further connect our 6 degrees of the MCU, Rick, who just appears in random places, did work on a set and did hang out with Elizabeth Olsen before she was before she was Scarlet Witch. I actually think it may have been months before she got casted as Scarlet Witch. So,
wow.
Again, Rick's connections to the MCU.
Rick is like an enigma. He's the guy I always wanted to be when I grew up, and I think he's younger than me by a year. I'm just putting that out there.
Exactly. Listen, he is the guy who this is his favorite character along with Hawkeye. It all makes sense. But so we see that, but then Bert and I were talking about, though, we find out that these guys are called the Power Brokers. In the comics, there's a character.
It's one guy or it's a couple guys.
Exactly.
I think it's going to be one guy.
It could be, no, you're right. And it could be stay faithful to the comics where it is the Power Broker. For if you're unaware, in the comics, the Power Broker is actually a person who he kind of like sells superhuman, like upgrades to superhuman abilities to the highest bidder. And in the comics, he gives John Walker and Hoskins their powers and their abilities. They get powered through some shady business, and that's how they are. So that also ties into my question, though, is do you think Walker and Hoskins had some form of the super soldier serum? I absolutely do.
Not now.
I do too.
You don't think so? I think they do already.
Not right now.
I think that's how he's throwing the shield. I think that's how Walker is. Because remember, think back to the beginning when they were like, physically we looked at you and they did studies on you at MIT and we see him throwing the shield and all the other stuff. I think if you want to look at it a version of steroids, I think Walker kind of cheated to get to where he's at, which furthers my belief that he's a douchebag.
Well, let me give my 2 cents on John Walker. So
go for it.
John Walker in the comics has a very complicated history. Sometimes he's a hero, sometimes he's a villain, sometimes he's on his own.
West Coast Avenger.
But what my whole thing with him and his introduction in the show, he didn't really come off as annoying or like mean or as a dick. Because for me, like what you talked about earlier, extending the olive branch, he really tried to, hey, look, guys, look, don't blame me. I'm just the guy that they picked to put in the position. I'm trying to do the best that I can. Because think about it. You're coming off the heels of this guy. Like you're not gonna. No one's gonna fill those shoes. So, for him to be selected to do this is very hard. So I think that all that pressure and everything. I feel like at the end when he told Sam and Bucky, like, "Oh, stay the hell out of my way," he was like, you know what, like I'm done. Like if you guys, I gave you a couple chances, I helped you guys out. You know, I didn't have to pull that favor for Bucky, but I did. You know, but even though he might have done it for ulterior reasons because of intel or whatever, but still, just he didn't have to do that. You know, but the fact that, you know, he had that, he did it, and they're still kind of like, yo, like, you know, back off for good reason, because obviously Sam and Bucky, you know, they have a very personal history with Steve, so they're not necessarily going to turn to the next guy and be like, oh, let's work together.
Yeah.
You know, so I understandably. So, but I think that, you know, he kind of reached this point where he was like, okay, you know, line in the sand's been drawn. That's it. If we run into each other, if I'm in a mission, stay out of my way. But other than that, I'm not going to ask you guys for help anymore. But I feel like that's not bad. I just feel like he's set his ground. But I do think they didn't really show it in this episode, but I feel like they might show a little bit of darkness in him, either from maybe some post-war kind of an attitude with certain things, and maybe the fact that he got his ass kicked by the Flag Smashers, which I don't think he has powers yet. Because if he had powers, he would have been able to beat the Flag Smasher on the truck.
Oh, I don't think he's 100% like Steve Rogers.
I think he has nothing. I think he's just like this, like the kind of like the classic Captain America. He's like the peak physical condition of a person, but not like he can jump out of a plane and he can do this and all that. You know, he only throws the shield like either back to him or back. Like he doesn't throw angles and stuff like that. You know, but like I said, I feel like I feel like he's gonna get to a point where he might feel so much pressure that he might go to the power broker and get powers. Okay. So I feel like that's where we're going.
Like Barry Bonds.
Exactly. Well, yeah, kind of. Barry Bonds. Because I think
he's gonna have some.
I think the real villain of the show is who we saw at the end of this episode.
Yeah. So let's get to the closing scene before we move on. And this is where I'm gonna hit you guys with. We can start getting into wild theories already because we haven't done that in a while since WandaVision. So let's get into one. So Sam and Bucky decide essentially they have a conversation. You know, Bucky's like, hey, you know, Isaiah was referring to my people, meaning Hydra. And he's like, well, if we need to get intel on Hydra, there's one place to go. And they talk about Helmut Zemo. And and we find out he's still locked up. He's there, and they decide, all right, let's go see him. And we see he's playing chess as well. So he's gotten pretty good at his chess game. So here we go with a completely off-the-wall insane theory that's not serious on any level whatsoever. Is Zemo bringing in Magneto or Professor X? Let's hear it. Because we only know that they're the only ones who play chess in the Marvel Universe on any level. Oh my God. I was thinking about that while I was watching because I rewatched the episode again before the show, and I was just like, come on, it's got to be Magneto, right? Like, it's not Mephisto, not this episode.
It's not this episode.
Not this episode. But we all know that he has to be locked up with Magneto.
Sorry, Zemo, but it seems I've checkmated you.
Yes.
Based off that logic, so then when Sam was ironing his shirt in the first episode, is that a reference that Iron Man's going to come back?
Obviously. He's obviously going to be the next Iron Man.
Obviously.
It's very clear. Back. It's clear.
Very clear.
Bert, that's a great catch because it went over my head briefly, but I think you're 100%
so good.
correct.
No, that was a thing on TikTok that people are doing now. Like, because everyone, like, for WandaVision, the predictions and stuff went off the rails, and everyone was like so disappointed with what happened that now like they're making fun of it. So it's like, oh, the iron, oh, it means Iron Man. Chessboard, oh, it means Magneto. Like they're taking every little thing and like setting up.
Resist that,
right?
Yeah. it was right there.
That's so good.
Nicely done, Ed. Nicely done.
but I'm very excited to see comic accurate costume Zemo this week with the jacket, the mask. I can't wait. It's gonna be so good.
Dude, I still remember having a Baron Zemo like Secret Wars action figure from and the anime saw. He did, yeah. Remember the Secret Wars figures? They came with like reflective shield.
I had Kang the Conqueror.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I didn't have the Zemo. That's awesome.
No, I know I had Zemo 100%. I thought he looked really cool. Anyone who kind of had like a ninja look to them, I would run to it immediately because he had the whole mask. But yeah, we're super excited for the next episode. But let's get into. After last week's episode, we had a bunch of
some afterthoughts.
talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, so we wanted to give it a little bit more time to get into our deep dive of this. Tony, go ahead. Like, what are some of your thoughts that we didn't get a chance to get across last week in our own Justice League episode? Oh, your audio, no audio. No. Okay.
How about now?
Oh, there you go.
Now we got
now he's back. Now he's back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back. So I will. So last week we kind of just gave like a general consensus of what we thought about the film, and and about how they, how great it really was. I mean, that's that was pretty much a given. But I think that the thing that I wanted to really just touch on is the fact is that not so much how different this movie is, because we all knew it was going to be a completely its own film. That we weren't going to 80% or 85% of it was going to be brand new. But even the scenes that were left in the original in the shitbox version that we got in 2017. Yes, I'm going to just call it the shitbox version now, because Justice League is actually makes it sound like it's an actual thing. So, but the scenes that they left, like the Snyder scenes that were cut, that they left in, that they destroyed essentially, were so much more cohesive and so much better in Zack's version of the film. The scene. I think the only scene that was really intact was the scene where Bruce walked into Barry's, lair, I guess, or, his office there.
Yeah. Other
than that, every other scene was doctored, and I thought that the the scene, even the scene that really kind of comes to mind to me, that was the most changed, and I thought the original one was better, was the scene between Diana and Victor when they met on the street and he shows up, and that scene right there shows you, like, you see a couple of the lines were left in, but they hit harder with Zack's scene than they were in the Whedon version.
Agreed.
And it was so well done. It really was. The scene was well done, and the character development, like, what we got in the first film, the cyborg version, like the weird things, like he couldn't control what was going on. And in Snyder's version, he had full control over everything. Yeah. How about that scene where, the scene where Superman shows up and he's like, "Oh, I can't control it. It's just it's arming itself." Mm-hmm. What? And in Zack's version, it's my automatic defense system arming itself because it senses danger. That makes fucking sense. The fact that this guy is who he is and he doesn't know who the fuck what he can do. That's just.
I mean, Bert, apparently Rick's really worried about you and Jason right now. Like, he feels like it's going to be like Paranormal Activity is the way I'm picturing it. Like, just jump out.
No, I got Pennywise the Clown to my left. He's protecting me until after this episode is over. Then I might not be back. I'm
very well lit here, Rick, just so you're aware. We're LED lit over here, so. So, just the way that they actually developed, the way that Zack actually developed his characters, the way that even the villains, they had purpose. It wasn't just some babbling idiot talking about mother. It made no fucking sense, the original one. It made no sense. And it actually, if you think about it, and Ed and I saw it opening night, as we've talked about, and we walked out of there and we were fairly pleased. We were like, okay, all right, this was pretty good. They actually did something right here, so on and so forth. But seeing this is the feeling that I had after I read what was supposed. This is what really kind of turned me against the original Justice League, because when I started to hear the things that Snyder had anticipated and what he was going to put into this movie and what we actually got, that's when I started to get mad. I'm like, that was the movie I wanted. Why did I get this? Now seeing it, it's exactly the way that I felt when I started reading those things. This is the movie I wanted all along. I wanted the stories between Victor and his father. I wanted more character depth. I wanted the dark side connection. I wanted all of that. And yes, I mean the movie is very long. There's no question about that. This is 2 films in one. There are definitely things that you could have taken out. There are things that were added that were only added because he knew that they weren't, that he wasn't sure they were going to go forward, and he wanted to make sure that he got it into this film, which is that whole scene at the end, the nightmare scene or whatever. Okay, so there are things that he could have cut out that would made this a shorter film. But I'll be honest with you, of everything that's in this movie, I can't think of anything that I would just say, you need to cut that out. You needed to cut that out. You need it. The movie flowed. It was 4 hours long, but it really, to me, it wasn't any different than watching, 3 or 4 long episodes of a television show that you would sit and binge anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the thing that I guess you said it perfectly. That's been my reaction to people who complain about the runtime of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Is we're in an era where people binge shows constantly.
All the time.
I'm not a huge I'm really not a binge fan myself, but I mean on New Year's Day I watched the entire season 3 of Cobra Kai straight through from beginning to end. I took piss breaks.
Most people did.
I adore it. There was more than 4 hours. I can tell you that much. So now, if your problem with the runtime though is the pacing of the film itself,
which I'm the outlier here, that is a problem I do have with the movie. Because I think you're right. I just looked yesterday. I was recovering because I got my second dose, and I was feeling some symptoms. So I sat on the couch, and I must have watched 6 episodes of The Flash. It's how I caught up the back stuff, right? So it's not that it was too long. I just feel that as a movie, if I'm evaluating this as a movie, I felt there were pacing issues. Now, if I was evaluating this as a mini series or as a television show or something, it's a different set of criteria, and it's not really the length for me. It's just I think there are some pacing issues if we're looking at this as a film which was meant to be put in the theater. But it has nothing to do with how long it is. It has to do with the pacing of certain scenes and certain parts.
There is definitely slow burn. There's no question, and Snyder's famous for that.
That's his thing. That is
his thing. Some people, and that's why he's a very, divisive type of filmmaker, is because people sometimes they love it and sometimes they hate it. I particularly like it. Okay, I liked the way he set up Batman vs Superman. And that was a 3-hour film. I like the way he set up Man of Steel. I like that slow burn. It's especially when there's a payoff for it. If you're just slow burning, and then you don't get paid off on everything that you've done, then it's a pile of shit. But if you're actually giving a payoff for it somewhere down the line, then I don't mind getting there. I enjoy that. That's part of the thing about being in a movie. You sit there, you watch it, you want to become part of it. That's the thing. Like when you go see, typically when I go to the movies now, I only go to IMAX films. And why is that? Because you literally feel like you're in the middle of what's going on. It's the sound, it's the huge screen, it's the seating, it's everything. You're a part of the film, and it's actually their slogan. It's their marketing cue is that you want to be part of a movie, or do you want to watch one? No, you want to be part of it. And I feel like with this movie and with Batman vs Superman, at certain times, his version, not the theatrical version, but that. He makes you part of it because you become invested. It does take a little time to get there, but it does pay off at some point in the end. And I feel like that does this. And the fact that it's chaptered, the fact that it's chapter 1, chapter 2, whatever, as you get through the thing, you don't want to watch any more of a 4-hour film. At 2 hours, just stop and pick up on part 5 tomorrow. That's the part that I don't get. If you're not going to sit and binge, if you could sit and binge an entire season of Cobra Kai, or the way, I watched the season 2 of The Mandalorian in 2 days, which is a fucking miracle if for me, because I don't do it. I never do that. But I sat and I watched it because I was really into it. It's the same thing, whether it's 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever the case may be. If you're invested in something, the time doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. Sit there, enjoy the film, enjoy what's going on, and be part of what's happening. And that's what I feel like Snyder did with this movie.
One of the big things that I was trying to get to last week, we didn't get a chance to do strengths and weaknesses like we typically. That's usually how we break down movies here. But one of them was, I think, a big difference for me between the two films. And I don't want to just say just because it was the two films and always just bag on Justice League and just a direct comparison, but the opening sequence when they go back to BVS and they show Superman, the death of Superman, and his scream and his life force or whatever going out to the universe, and you can see that's what awakened the mother boxes, and that's what like got everything going. And it was felt, you see it in Themyscira, and you see it in Atlantis, and you see it everywhere. That I thought was immense to making like to setting the film up and setting everything in motion that we didn't get in the original film. And I think it adds a lot of context. And that's my biggest thing with this film. Like I know last week Kyle mentioned something, and I did agree with him on it, that while saying these are two totally different films, they do share the same skeleton of a story, if you want to call it that. I don't know what else you want to say, or framework.
The same elements. Like you said,
the same elements. You know what I mean? Yeah, Justice League does this, blah, blah, blah. But this, again, like I said last week, it's a master class in teaching someone film of the importance of context, editing, and what a score can do. And I know, and Bert, I know you're a huge fan of Junkie XL's score, and I know we touched on this last week. It was night and day. And we both like Danny Elfman, right? And when I heard he was stepping into Justice League, I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe we would get the original Batman theme, and he toys with John Williams' Superman theme. But it didn't work in the film. Like, that's something that sounds good on paper, but then when it played out, you're like, this is goofy. Junkie XL rocked the shit out of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I'm actually super excited to see what he does. Because I didn't get a chance earlier to watch Godzilla vs. Kong today, but I'm going to see it in IMAX. I'm going to see it in IMAX on Sunday.
That's all you need to know. He killed it.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it before I see it on Sunday. But I had to see that on IMAX. I got to see Big Monsters fight in IMAX because that's what it is. But that was one of the big differences for me that I didn't get a chance to really get into last week, was the opening of the film really set the tone like, hey, you're watching a real different movie, man. So, fasten your seatbelts. This is where it's going.
Yep.
That was a big thing for me. Steppenwolf's motivation, like you mentioned. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have you guys looked up seeing comparisons on YouTube? Like literally, I've been seeing a couple breakdowns of like people looking at. So like the first 30 minutes of the Justice League, it's basically they cut that the first hour of the Zack Snyder's Justice League is basically the full version of that, because within 30 minutes they cut down the battle of Themyscira. The stuff, like one thing that I really liked was things made more sense. So instead of of Alfred bringing Lois in a police car to Superman when he comes out, they established that she goes to the memorial every morning. She gives coffee to the cop, just to kind of see him for one last time, and then goes to back to her job. So when he comes out, she's already there. So it's not like, oh, Lois, how did she get here so randomly? Da, da, da. Like, she's already there, right? Same thing with Batman with the gauntlets that absorb the energy. So instead of Superman just holding him up by his throat, he's able to fight off the laser beam. So stuff just is more coherent in the Zack Snyder version, which I appreciate.
No, and absolutely. And another thing, by the way, we didn't get a chance to, and I know this was something that me and Tony used to talk about at work that infuriated us with Justice League was, and I know as Chief and Pro, we used to talk about it, is that in BVS, they set up the nightmare sequence, and they set up the Flash coming and visiting Bruce after it looks like he takes a nap, essentially. They addressed it in this version, which was a massive win. Remember before Justice League came out, we were like, just address it, so then BVS, you automatically make BVS better. So in the way that, like, I think we all agree that WandaVision made elements of Age of Ultron better, and made elements that we saw in the past of the MCU even more enhanced now. I felt Justice League made BVS better.
Exactly.
Justice League made Man of Steel even better than it already was.
Exactly, and that's what I said about Man of Steel. The only problem that I had with Man of Steel was I thought that last scene the scene with him and Zod was just a little bit like over the top. It was, it was too much. It was, falling in love with all the, the destruction and this and that and everything else. But to see it sewn into the beginning of Batman vs Superman, now it's like, okay, now I appreciate that more. Now I understand why they went that far, because it was supposed to bring in the next movie. And that's exactly what happened with the nightmare scene. And when we got the original Justice League, I remember walking out and you were like, well, we still don't know what the fuck that was all about. Exactly. We had no idea, because they cut that shit out. There were 3 different references to that. There was the reference to Bruce having the vision that he had and saying that Barry was right here. Okay, so he says it right off the bat when they're in the Batcave. I had this vision, and Barry was clear as day right in front of me talking to me. That was the first thing. Then the second thing was the thing with Cyborg, when the ship was warning him what was going to happen if you did this. Right? If you do this, this is what's going to happen. So that's the second version of the nightmare sequence. And then the third was the one that I guess that was the one that he cut at the end, right? Which I am assuming that portion of it wouldn't have been in the film originally. I think that was all aftershoots, was reshoots rather.
Reshoots.
Was the reshoots, right? So we wouldn't have gotten that scene, but we would have gotten that in the second Justice League movie, which would have been whatever happens in that scene where Cyborg sees what's going to happen down the road with
Wonder Woman dead and Aquaman and all of that.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
Exactly. It was awesome. I want that movie now, and that's why this whole restore the Snyderverse, million tweets or whatever it is, like that. That's why, because everybody wants to see that now. It's the same exact thing. So I look, to me. They took out this. They did exactly to this movie what they did to BVS, the theatrical version. They cut all the fucking context out. You had no idea what was going on. It was a complete disjointed mess. This movie was only a shade more coherent, even though the coherence that what made it coherent didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
the movie that we ultimately got, that was the film that we were supposed to get, and that one actually makes sense.
I'm going to be a bit of an outlier here again, because I don't think, as much as I did enjoy that they mentioned what happened in BVS, I still don't think I don't go back and I go, I think BVS is a better movie in the sense, because I still think when you take 15 minutes out of your movie to set up another movie with no context, I still have problems with that. And I do feel that's what BVS does, and it does pay off here. But I think what really delineates that for me is the scene where Cyborg has the what could happen, because I think that was done so well, because that wasn't a big chunk of the movie. That was Cyborg having this flash, what was it, like a couple of minutes of all these things. And that's all. Like, I think that if BVS was able to do something like that, just something small to set it up and not a big chunk of the movie, and then it came back here, I think it would have been better served, because I think, like, again, my problem with setting up another movie without resolving the movie you're in, we're watching movies here. We're not watching TV. We're not watching something that we're expected to know all this stuff coming in and going forward. So, I think Zack Snyder does very well in this movie what I don't think he did well in BVS. So that, I'm agreeing
I can agree with that.
I don't think it retroactively fixes that moment in BVS for me.
Well, my only thing was, I just don't think it's a hanging thread anymore. At least it's been acknowledged at some point.
Agreed.
To say that it's there, and that's it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but at least it just didn't happen for completely no reason. And it was
and you understand why you're right, and you understand at least where it's coming from.
Yeah, and I mean, I will admit, I'm also not 100% clear still, though, on are these just dreams of his, or is he having premonitions? And if they're premonitions, why is Bruce Wayne having premonitions? That's still something I'm not 100% clear on, but whatever. It's not, to me, it's not that big a deal. The nightmare scene is as great as it was in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's not, I do agree. It's one of the fluffer scenes that I think it's not essential, but I do respect that Snyder's like, hey, screw this. If this is the last movie I'm making my damn Justice League movie. I'm going to put in whatever the hell I want to put into it. And screw you guys, like, screw this. I'm on my way out. And that's it.
any ding I give to Justice League, because I do have some problems with the movie. I didn't think it's perfect. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I have a couple. So
any dings I give it for, especially with pacing or scenes that I don't think needed to be in there, it's like this is Zack Snyder's goodbye, fans. And this was made specifically for fans. So it's like I can't ding it too much. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really coming down heavy on it.
No.
But I do still have a couple of like technical issues.
Yeah, and I think it is really cool. Like whatever you I think I can speak for the four of us saying like we're not supporting like toxic fandom. For those fans that are going ahead and
definitely
doing hashtag restore the Snyderverse and like review bombing Godzilla versus Kong, you guys are assholes. Like honestly, you're just straight up assholes. That's not the way to do it. You should look at Zack Snyder's Justice League as saying, yo, the fans won. They got what they wanted. They demanded it for years. Here it is. Here's the love letter. Here's Zack Snyder's love letter to the DCU fans.
And with as much as I don't love the Zack Snyderverse, I would like to see Nightfall. I would like to see his dystopian version of this. There's interest here. So even if they did restore the Snyder Cut, restore it as like we're getting into multiverse stuff. Restore it as a multiverse. Give Snyder his own multiverse to do what he wants.
Why not?
Put it on HBO Max if you want. It'll be a huge draw. But I'm all for it.
Yeah, and actually Alex agrees with you apparently because he thinks it'd be cool if it was part 2 was the nightmare sequence, and from what we've gathered, all the information we got, that was the plan.
Right.
The plan was for Justice League 2 to be set in the nightmare world.
The people who started the whole release the Snyder Cut, right? It was a small thing, and it just grew and grew and grew over time. They didn't do any, they had none of these like tactics or none of this bullshit. All they did was go online and just continue over and over and over to social media and they bombarded Warner Brothers until they were forced to look at this. And I think that looking at the popularity of Justice League and seeing the critical and the critical and the fan review of what we actually got, and the fact that there is a lot of interest in maybe not restoring the Snyderverse, but maybe going down this road, like you said, and something else. Warner Brothers, look, these studio executives, most of these guys who are making the decisions don't give a shit about what you want and don't want or whatever. They want to know what's going to make them money. And if they think that they can, hire this guy back and they'll make money off of it, they'll do it. That's the only thing that they understand. They don't give a shit about art. They don't give a shit about stories. They don't care. That's why a lot of these movies that come out, they absolutely suck. Why do they keep making them? The Transformer movies. Because fucking people go see them. That's it. They don't care whether the story is accurate or good or this or that or whatever. But they know now, okay, and Warner Brothers is starting to finally learn that the reason why comic book people go and spend their money on films is because it's a good film. And now they're realizing, like, hey, we just can't pump bullshit into things anymore. We need to go and make this stuff either somewhat accurate or something that these people can hang their hat on. And that's what they've done here. And there's interest there. So people say it'll never happen. I don't think so. Because if Warner Brothers thinks that they can make money off of this, they're going to try to capitalize any way that they possibly can.
100%. Well, two quick Easter eggs that I think that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week was in the epilogue, when we see Batman, by the way, standing on the massive tank, which is definitely a tank from like the Dark Knight Returns. Yeah. If you apparently there's some people on Bert, I already know, I can tell by your expression that you can see where I'm going with this. There was apparently he sees a bunch of people rounded up in front of the tank, and they blew it up, and it is the mutants from that gang that he battles in the Dark Knight Returns.
Oh,
they have the visors.
Slice and dice.
Yes,
I didn't even.
I was like, that is awesome.
That's cool.
That is so awesome. And also another nod to
Batman don't shiv. Batman don't shiv.
Was the name change to Arkham Asylum to the Arkham Home for the Emotionally Troubled. That's also something that was done in The Dark Knight Returns that is also done in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I thought those were both really cool Easter eggs.
How beautiful was that? Was the panning view of Arkham Asylum, though?
Yes.
I mean, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I loved it.
So I think, most of us, did you have any other, Jason, did you have any other points you wanted to throw out?
I did want to share with you guys the scene that I realized I was all in on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the scene where Steppenwolf throws a horse.
Yes.
Like I'm watching, like he's like running like a linebacker. He knocks a horse, the horse goes over, and then he one-handed picks a horse up and chucks that horse. And I was watching it with some friends, and I turned, I'm like, oh no, I'm in this movie now. This because it was so crazy.
I'm in this.
Like, did Steppenwolf just threw a horse? Like, so like I really did enjoy some of the bold choices this made. I think that scene was so much better. Like watching. Like we made fun of it when we did Justice League, where he just kind of, let's close everyone in, and then he just busts out. We've killed everyone for no reason. Yeah. The fact that they drop him into the water and it becomes a whole chase, I thought that was so much better. And I'm going to give this. I said this off the air after we were done, and then this will be the last thing I say. I'm going to give this movie the highest compliment I can pay a DC movie, is that Justice League was more focused on Batman. This took a lot of that focus off Batman and made Cyborg the main character, and it was the better choice.
Yep.
And I am the Batman guy. Like the reason I like Justice League at all, because I do have some affection for it, is I like the Batman stuff. Like I like that it's a stupid scene. It makes no sense now. It's definitely Joss Whedon, but I like the scene where he's like holding the criminal over and testing the parademon to. They smell fear because I like to see Ben Affleck do Batman stuff. I like to see Batman do Batman stuff. There's less of that in this movie, and I think it makes the movie better. So that's the highest compliment I can pay a non-Batman DC movie.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Get it. I'm sorry.
No, but actually, let me, as perhaps the number 2 Batman guy on our show, because I will definitely defer to Jason as the Batman guy. I've honestly, but I think we talked about this last week, though. I honestly loved what Zack Snyder's Justice League does with Batman in general, because they took away all the goofy lines, the goofy one-liners, the jokes that didn't land. It felt like Joss Whedon really twisted Batman into some weird, and he wasn't the cheerleader that was falling in love with Superman, and like, I don't know, it was just a lot of cringy shit that went on in Justice League with Batman. And for me, that ruined it, and that actually ruined my opinion of Batfleck in general, because I was like, remember, I actually had him as like my favorite live action Batman at one point. After marinating with Justice League, I was like, fuck this, I can't do that, man. Like, no, it's still Bailman over Batfleck. I felt like this movie redeemed Batfleck for me, because we see him. The thing is, we see the Batman that we get in this is Justice League Batman.
Yeah, like it's a lot better stuff.
Justice League Batman. He's not doing the world's greatest detective shit all the time, but he's doing what he would do in a Justice League story.
That's right.
And he grabs like their weapons, using their own weapons against them. I mean, he's pretty brutal also in a couple of scenes where he needs to just like, he wipes people out and like really kills some of those parademons pretty brutally.
Yep.
And he doesn't sound like a moron asking, what is the mother box? Is it cash? Is it money? Is it power? That whole thing is completely wiped because he's not a blithering idiot. He's the world's greatest detective.
Or what's the line? He's like when he got pushed down. He's like, oh, that's gonna hurt in the morning.
Oh no,
something's bleeding.
Something's bleeding. Oh, I was like, oh god.
And
then that scene where
I don't not like you.
Oh, what about?
Oh my god, I hate that.
What about the scene with him and Diana? The whole scene with Diana where he's like the old Batman.
Low key, he was kind of a dick in the Justice League movie.
He was, and in this one,
especially to Diana.
Yes.
Oh, by the way,
all that shit was all that was gone.
He's like, what about Steve Trevor?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Batman was a douche. I mean, he can be a douche in general, but like in Justice League, it was just being a dick to be a dick, and that whole weird pushing Diana to be the leader. They were kind of like co-captains in this one. It was very much like they were
like the mother and father of the group.
Exactly, and I think that played out a lot better. And by the way, did you think anything of the touching the mouse thing, where it was like, oh,
that was cute. That was cute.
There was some chemistry there. Yeah, like sorry.
No, I wanted to see some Bruce Wayne, Diana. That they can be a couple, man. Why not?
Well, First of all,
they did it in the comics. I mean, I'm just saying, it's not like it's out of left field. This isn't Black Widow and Bruce Banner.
Yeah, well. Anyway, so I thought the scene of them trying to decide what to do, bring him back. I thought that was very, very well done.
Plays out so much
completely different from Whedon's version,
and I like terrible. I like that it wasn't Batman who comes up with it. It wasn't like, oh, we got to bring Superman back. It was like, well, we know what we got to do, right? It's like, and the Flash is the one who says it.
It was Flash that did it, right?
And I like what brings it about is, well, why did the mother boxes start up now? Why didn't they start up a couple of years ago? Oh, he was around.
Around.
It made logically bringing Superman back made sense, and you're right. I think it worked so much better in this version.
And the other scene that I thought was so impactful was the original when Diana's telling the story of what happened. Now, her walking through the cave also, which very good.
That was cool.
I love very, very cool.
The etching of Darkseid was awesome.
Exactly. But then her explaining the story and then seeing the battle scene between the Amazonians, the Atlanteans, man, and then the gods, and seeing Zeus and Ares basically kick the shit out of Darkseid, which very, awesome. Very well done.
And Darkseid with the Green Lantern, when he was about to almost grab the ring after he killed the Lantern, was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was really, really, really well done. And it's another thing where it was completely taken out of the context. They didn't have Darkseid there. It was just Steppenwolf being pulled, being pulled off by the Parademon, saying, "Oh, we're just going to retreat." Like it was just, it was terrible if you compare the two scenes. Which, Bert, I'm going to actually go on and see if I can find on YouTube now where they have the two scene comparisons. But that scene, the battle scene between what went on, right, when they were trying to do the Unity the first time with the mother boxes, so Snyder's version just absolutely blows it away compared to what we originally got in 2017. So very, very, very well done there.
They brutally killed Steppenwolf, by the way. They really
that was. And can I tell you that everybody
way more satisfying.
Because they all had a hand in it.
Way more satisfying. Yeah,
they cut his head off and threw the body through the portal back at his boss. Like, that
was the mic drops to Darkseid.
And it was I like how it was Diana that did it because he kept on egging Diana the whole movie, and she's like, the last straw,
right?
Which they took that shot in the Justice League movie was her cutting the sword, but Superman literally broke that like in 1 second in this movie.
How about the fact that he beats the ever-living shit out of him?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then burns the fucking the horn off.
Yeah.
Right? And then you got the scene you got Arthur with the trident, and then him throwing him, and then Diana cutting off his head as he goes through the portal. And Darkseid just sitting there like that was, and everyone says, well, why isn't Darkseid doing anything? Bro, like that scene was perfect. Yes. Like he's sitting there.
What's Darkseid gonna do?
Right. Well, what is he doing? He's sitting there like this, and he's like, "All right, this one can do this. This one can do this. This one can do this.
Anti-life.
I need
no wasted motion."
Right. Yes. He knows exactly, and he just sat there and took it all in. And I was like, God, it was perfect. I thought it was really, really well done.
It's not like Darkseid's gonna run to save Steppenwolf. He had cut that guy off so long ago. He's he needs all 50,000 worlds to come back. Like, come on.
He turns and says it's like, to Desaad. 10 seconds later, the guy's head is under his foot, and he turns to Desaad. He goes, Steppenwolf was, I forget exactly what he said, but he basically was Steppenwolf was a failure.
Yeah.
Steppenwolf had found all three of the mother boxes and gotten them together and
the anti-life equation
and found the anti-life equation and was this close to bringing him in, right? And he was like,
"Go, Jason, say it."
On the planet that Darkseid himself forgot had the mother boxes and anti-life equation, which he almost got killed. Which that is an issue of mine. Like he gets put down very easily. And then, like, he forgets the mother boxes are on this planet. And that's an issue for me. But like. It's a hand wave thing. It's like do I want another scene explaining it? No, I really don't. This was fine. But like, but he's sort of like, you're right. Yeah. Oh, Steppenwolf can't do this. All right. We're going to do this the old way. Let's go get the ships. Like, and I thought that was a cool moment too, where he says that.
Yeah. I think that but it seemed to me that it was portrayed that they knew the mother boxes were there. They didn't know the anti-life.
That's what I said last week. That's what I said
on read something.
Right. They knew the mother boxes were there, but Superman dying was them basically. So I guess it was first they were protected by the Lantern, and then they were protected by him. And I guess at this point, when he dies, they realize there's nobody left to protect these things.
It's made clear, though, between Steppenwolf and Darkseid, it's made, like he says, I found the planet with the mother boxes. It is implied that they had forgotten it. And I did read something, and I'll share it to the Peach Tea group if I can find it again. But I read something where Zack Snyder actually comments on this, and he says, like, well, he was very badly injured, and they took him back, and he had to heal, and everyone who was there with him eventually dies. And so Zack Snyder did try to give a justification that I don't think was the best. But it's like, is it a plot hole? I think it is. Is it a devastating plot hole that ruins the movie? No, it's something that you can easily just go, okay, forgot where it is. That's not the best, but this is a 4-hour movie with a lot of other stuff going on. So, like, I can forgive it. That's kind of my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I shared the article. I think it was from Heroic Hollywood. I shared it.
Oh, okay. So you shared. So I don't have to share.
It's there. No, I agree though. It's something that Snyder addressed. He talked about it briefly, and it was just like whatever. Again, it's not making or breaking the movie. Would have been better if they would smooth it out. Great, but
if there is a weak point, if there is a weakness of this movie, it would be that's not explained very, very well, or how that gets to that point. So, but in a 4-hour film, I mean, if there's like one or two things that they don't really explain or we don't really understand what's going on, I think they've done a pretty decent job of getting it to that point. So,
it takes nothing away from my enjoyment of the movie.
Exactly.
I think that's the important part. It takes nothing away from. I watched it and went, well, that's kind of stupid, but hey, let's go on. We're going to continue on with this movie. There's a lot of fun. So I think that's the important part.
I watched this movie through the prism of, if we did not have the 2017 version of Justice League, what would have been my response to this movie? And I think I would have been completely wowed by it. And then I wouldn't have been so fucking aggravated, because I'm looking at, this is the bullshit that I got that I paid for, and this is what I should have gotten all along. So that's, I've been trying to do that. And I did the same thing with when I watched Ultimate Edition after the theatrical version of Batman vs Superman, because if I had not gotten the first version of this film, I would have been very happy with what I got. Same thing with this. I would have been ecstatic with this movie if I had never seen the original version, and it had pissed me off to the point to how it did.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap this up then. So I think we've given Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 episodes to talk about. So I can promise you, for episode 12 of Granny's Peach Tea, we will not be discussing any more of Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it is time to move on with some other awesome stuff. So thanks for joining us, Bert. Thank you so much for coming on as our guest, popping up with us, and sharing your love for all the geeky goodness that we have on here. And look for. Did you write your?
If you guys want to do a comic show, I'm down.
What was that? Oh, actual comics.
If you guys want to do a comic show, I'm down, because I have a good collection.
Nice. I think I still got like one long white box left for me, because I started getting some stuff out of there. Nice. But thanks for joining us for wherever it is. Again, Facebook, YouTube. Instagram, wherever it is, podcast, whether it's on Spotify or Apple. Thanks for joining us. What you want to do is go ahead and subscribe to YouTube. Go subscribe to Pop Culture Pros. Join our Facebook group. We have Granny's Peach Tea. We have Pop Culture Pros. Like it all. Sign up for it. It's a lot of fun. We have a pretty great community going on here. If you're a fan of the New York Yankees, jump on tomorrow. I'll be on with Tim for our season debut of the Empire 161 show. We'll be talking about opening day and the opening day roster. You can catch A to Z show on Monday nights with your host Eric and producer Dave. Tuesdays you got Just Too Sweet show about wrestling with Eric, and Bert is actually on there a lot as well. So Eric and Tim will take you through some wrestling stuff if you like. And also you got the 4 Quarters show where Dave and his partners. How was it?
Alan.
Dave and Alan, they go ahead and they'll break down anything over sports. Wednesdays we got to put it in the books, and then that's who precedes us usually on Wednesdays. We're gonna figure it out. We're trying to make sure we keep our Wednesday slot, but we might have to pop on a Friday. What's up? What's up, Tony?
I just for Mr. Faraci, who's a huge Met fan, I just want to. Some breaking news just came through. Francisco Lindor has signed his extension with the New York Mets for $340 million.
Scooping, put it in the books. Wow. Granny's peach tea. Going ahead.
Mic drop.
Look at that.
Wow, that is incredible.
Nice.
So enjoy that. You can see Tony's jacked up for opening day tomorrow. He's got his Mets cap on. I've got my Yankees cup. Trusty Yankees cup is over here. But no, we'll let you guys know what's up, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, stay safe and take it easy, man.